What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise postgame show powered by BetUS. Once again, we have another Blazer win as they beat the Atlanta Hawks 114-110 in what was a game of runs capped off by some clutch play by Shaden Sharpe, a huge step back three to put the Blazers up one in the final couple of minutes, and the Blazers close it out and move to 6-8 on the season. A really fun game, a really fun win, and a lot to talk about from this game after the Blazers went on a massive third quarter run. Have they put their third quarter woes behind them? They might have. But what went into that run? There were some interesting things, X's and O's wise, that I'm excited to talk about. And the Blazers get their third straight win without DeAndre Ayton. They get their third straight win basically without Anthony Simons. And this young upstart group is looking like a legitimate NBA team, which makes for a fun post-game show. Eric, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. It's having a pretty bad sports day with you, Tori, until that happened. So nice to see one of our teams actually have some good moments today.
At least your fantasy team didn't get 43-pieced by Taysom freaking Hill in garbage time. So, yeah, it was a brutal, brutal day for us as Niner fans. Congrats to you Seahawks fans out there. Both our teams are mid. And, rough fantasy day. I just need to retire from football at this point. It's been a brutal year. But, I don't know, maybe the Blazers are better than our Niners, Eric. Maybe the Blazers are a legitimate team. I mean, 6-8, and it's funny because going into the season, everybody was looking at the first 15 games like, oh, man, this team might win 2 of their first 15 games. Like, they're going to be 2-13. They're going to struggle. It's such a hard first 15 games. They're 6-8 right now. And game number 15 is coming up. That's going to be a tough one. But obviously, we'll look ahead at the end of the stream. 6-8, man. I mean, especially given, they've dealt with some injuries. But if anything, maybe the injuries have helped them find who they are in a way. And we talked about, after that first Minnesota win, needing to build upon it. Okay, they beat Minnesota again. All right, you got to build upon it. And then this game, they start off down 25-9. And it looked like, oh, well, yeah, those games were flukes. Here we go. Here are the Blazers are back again. You know what I mean? The Blazers are back again. This is the team we expect to go into the season. They're going to lose by like 40 to the Atlanta Hawks at home. It felt a lot like the start to the Memphis game. The Memphis game where the Blazers lost by 45. Instead, they battle back and get a double-digit lead in the third quarter. Almost choke it, but just the fact that they were able to turn this one around the way they did. And this was another game you can point to where they beat Atlanta's not the best team. They're probably a play-in team, but at least, it's not some bottom feeder team that they beat. Like, it's a team that a lot of people would have ahead of Portland. And they beat, I don't know if they were underdogs before the game, but they win again. And it was just really impressive the way they were able to turn around this game. And, of course, it comes on the back of Shaden Sharpe's playing good basketball. Robert Williams is playing great basketball right now. Donovan Clingan has an impact again. He's just very solid defensively right now and finished off some plays around the rim. And, yeah, just a really fun game. And it's fun to be the team that comes out of halftime and punches the other team in the face.
Yeah, I mean, we did get off to a sluggish start in the third quarter, the first couple minutes, and then the last, 8 minutes or so, we just dominated that quarter. I think, what did the Hawks end up with, 24 turnovers or something like that?
Yeah.
Or 27 they ended up with, geez. So the Blazers, you had mentioned this during the game, Tori, that you felt like they were overplaying Trae Young a little too much up top, and that was causing a lot of problems. They didn't adjust too much, but they did adjust the way they were rotating behind that a little bit, and it ended up working and causing a lot of trouble with their length.
Yeah. I mean, early in this game, there was just a couple plays where Kamara is just on an island guarding Trae Young super close 40 feet away, and it's really easy to beat even Tamani Kamara off the dribble in that situation when you're pressing 40 feet out and have no help. And Atlanta was kind of breaking down the Blazers' defense that way. But it's different if you're running off a screen and you're hedging, trapping that screen, which is what I want to talk about with that third quarter. And with some of these turnovers that the Hawks had, the Blazers, without DeAndre Ayton, are no longer married to drop scheme. They're just no longer married to drop scheme like they had been for basically the entirety of last year and the start of this season. Even with Donovan Clingan in the game, there's been a little bit in previous games, but there was some more of it this game. There was multiple times where Donovan Clingan is getting out and hedging hard on a screen above the level of the screen and recovering to his man. And there was a couple of times that it got picked apart, but the Blazers were blitzing pick and rolls. The Blazers were playing extremely aggressive defensively on the pick and rolls. And, you know, when you play that aggressive style, you're going to give up some easy buckets because it's hard if the ball gets out of that hedge or out of that trap. You know, if they pass the ball correctly, they're going to get an open shot. Unless you rotate perfectly, and it's really hard to rotate perfectly every single time out of that trap. But if you're getting deflections, if you're able to like spring the passing lanes behind that, and you're able to force turnovers and then get going the other way, get going in transition, and take a team completely out of their rhythm, you can go on a massive run playing that style of defense. And that's exactly what happened in that third quarter, 38-17 run. And a lot of it was offense coming off of defense where the Hawks looked completely discombobulated. And you know, it's fun. It's a fun style of basketball, and Chauncey switched it up in that third quarter, and it worked, man. And that's why, you know, I think that's part of the reason why they had such a big third quarter. You know, it's when we're running drop, when we're playing conservative, and you come out in that third quarter and you're just playing a conservative scheme, at times it just feels like this team is on their back heels, right? Like they're on their heels. They're not being the aggressor defensively, and then they're getting stuck in the half court playing offensively, and they're struggling. Instead, that third quarter, they came out as the aggressors defensively, really put their pedal to the metal, but then also they were rotating better behind that. So I don't know if we, you know, maybe that's props to Chauncey Billups for a halftime adjustment that worked out, especially those rotations getting better behind that trap. But this was one of the games where it's like, man, this is what I like to see from Chauncey, defensively at least. This is what I like to see. You got Robert Williams. Switch up your scheme. Play aggressive. That's what Chauncey Billups wanted to do coming into Portland. And just to see it play out in that way and you outscore the Hawks by 21 in that quarter was really, really fun to see, man.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a lot, where if you're playing drop scheme and you're switching every pick and you're just kind of allowing the offense to dictate what they're going to do, it just leads to lazy basketball. And you saw once they started creating steals and turnovers and stuff like that, getting into the open floor, pushing the pace, it just made everything better. The defense looked quicker and lengthier, and it looked like we had guys flying all over the court. And the offense, there were times where it got a little stagnant in this game, but I think we finished with 31 assists. I'll take that every time. So like it led to a lot of good moments where we were getting shots early on in transition, and also just creating a little bit of chaos and pressure and just uncertainty for the Hawks on what to do to attack all our length and switching and pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have lineup versatility now where you can run a lineup out there with like Banton, Avdija, Kamara, Grant, and like Clingan or Robert Williams. I like Robert Williams a little better with that lineup because you're switchable. And Robert Williams is the Blazers' best center switching out onto guards, right? And he was very active behind the trap. There was one where Atlanta got the ball out of the trap, hit the roller, in the middle of the paint, and then he tried to throw a lob over the top to Robert Williams guys as he rotated up to the roll man, and he deflects the pass. You know, it kind of looked like a block shot, but he deflects the pass. Just a great defensive play where you look at, you know, I hate that we have to do this, but naturally when Ayton's out and this team is looking better, you're going to compare these centers to how Ayton would defend in these certain positions, and Ayton's probably not getting to that pass. He's just not Robert Williams defensively. He doesn't have the same level of anticipation, isn't as quick off the floor, right? And that's probably a lob dunk over the top. Where instead for the Blazers, it's a ball going the other way. I don't know if they scored on it or not, but it's a momentum play. And the momentum built throughout that entire third quarter. Another play where Robert Williams really anticipated a pass out to the wing after the Blazers trapped and deflected it out of bounds. And there's like 9 on the shot clock after it. So then Atlanta has limited time to try and set something up. Those are the types of plays plays that really make a difference defensively, and those are the types of plays that Robert Williams III makes. And when you're able to put out length on the floor that can fly around, but also aren't too bad offensively, that's a really, really interesting wrinkle to throw in with a second unit, right? Banton, Avdija both can handle the ball. We're going to talk about Banton because he played really, really well today, but also should not be bringing the ball up the floor as the point guard. He's a playmaking wing, not a point guard. But you're able to play a couple ball handlers that are 6'7", 6'8". I think Avdija is listed as 6'9". And then you got Kamara out there, Grant out there. Grant can score. Like, that's a really big switchable lineup that can fly around defensively. And then, the question marks with that type of lineup are always going to be on the offensive end. But when you're getting deflections and when you're forcing turnovers and you can get out and run with that length, offense isn't a problem. So that's why they were able to go on a run. And there was a moment of time with a lineup like that was playing good basketball. And, of course, when you got Shaden as well in transition, as athletic as he is, it's fun, man. And that's the thing. I'm talking about this lineup with all the size, but even the guards, all the way down to the guards. Sharpe, I don't know. Let me see if he finished with any steals or whatnot. But, Sharpe defensively has been solid enough. I think he's been better than the past couple seasons. The past couple seasons, there would always be multiple infuriating plays defensively from him. He did foul a three-point shooter, which was a bad foul, but I think he's just being more solid defensively. And then Scoot, for as bad as he struggled today, which the stat line actually looks better. Only 4 turnovers, it felt like more, but 3 for 10, didn't shoot well. He did have 10 assists, so he did a really good job as a point guard. But defensively, had 1 block. I think it should have been 2. There was another play where he came over. I don't know if they counted that on a steal. But Scoot has been very active defensively. And that's something that we wanted to see. So when you got everybody flying around defensively, you're able to create some chaos. And that's the type of basketball I think this team can build momentum and thrive off of. And that needs to be their identity, is we create chaos defensively. And if you think you're going to get downhill to the rim, you're going to have to deal with a legitimate shot blocker. And then off of that chaos and off of these defensive plays, we're going to get out and we're going to push the ball down your throat in transition. Don't clip that. And we're going to make things happen. So, just nice to see them embrace that identity, man. That's what we've been asking for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a little bit of it with Sharpe is he's not getting hunted the same way that Anthony and Scoot get hunted. So he kind of skates on defense a little bit, and we're getting away with it right now because they're trying to attack the big and bring him out, and they're not really focused on that. Now, as Sharpe starts to play better, if he keeps having 30-point games and is controlling the offense, teams might start to attack him to try and wear him out on the defensive end to curtail a little bit of his energy for offense. But until that happens, man, yeah, it seems like he's just doing what he needs to do on that end. So hopefully that's a case where he can step up once that starts to happen, because I think it will eventually start to be where they try to attack him. They got to try to find the weak link to our defense, and it's certainly not our wings right now.
Yeah, definitely. Chat, are you guys having more fun watching this team? How do you feel about this team compared to three games ago? Because this
exactly 1 week ago, Tori.
Exactly 1 week ago, I was sitting here alone lamenting how pathetic this team was, and wow, they've turned it around in a week, man. I mean, just the vibes are completely different. The vibes are good, and the Blazers are going to be challenged next game, so hopefully they don't get blown out, because they got some momentum right now, and they're feeling pretty good about themselves. You got OKC up next for this team, and then you have an NBA Cup game, and listen, I think this team is eyeing that NBA Cup game, and they're going to be ready. It's at Houston, so it's a tough one. But I think that's kind of the next question for this team, right? These past 3 games have been at home. They've gotten the crowd into the game in a way that they haven't in a while. Now they go on a road for a 5-game road trip. Can they bring the same energy on the road in an opposing arena, right? Because, when you're playing this chaotic style ball and you got things going, the crowd's behind you, that gives you a boost. How do they function without that boost? And you're facing a team in OKC next game, man. They got SGA, of course. You got to try to find a way to neutralize him. But they got a lot of dudes that can shoot the ball. And the Blazers did give up some solid 3-point looks in this game. I think that's the one area where they need to get better. And I think that's part of the reason why they started trapping some of these pick and rolls and trying to fly out to the wings behind that trap. Was Atlanta got some quality 3-point looks in the first half. The problem is they don't really have many shooters. They got Ricochet, he's 0 for 2. I don't know exactly what he is as a shooter. You got Dyson Daniels, he's 1 for 5. He's not a shooter. He's a really good defensive player. Only finished with 2 steals today, which is like low for him. He's averaging almost 4 a game.
That feels like a win.
Yeah, that is a win. Jalen Johnson doesn't shoot a ton of threes. Clint Capella is not a 3-point shooter. Okongwu's not a 3-point shooter. Like Larry Nance Jr. playing off him, and he's not much of a 3-point shooter. Vic Krejci was 3 for 4 from 3. Garrison Matthews was 2 for 5. But, that's where it's, okay, if you're going to face a team that can really spread you out, are you able to play the same style of defense? Are you able to get away with the same stuff? And that's where they're going to be challenged next game. So, something where I think Chauncey struggles is, okay, this style of basketball worked against Minnesota and Atlanta, but that's where this team has to get better. If you are facing a team like OKC, you probably can't get away with like flying out on every screen and then trying to rotate to all their shooters behind that. They're playing Jalen Williams, the good Jalen Williams, the wing Jalen Williams. They're playing him at like a center spot right now, so they're just going to go 5 out. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that's just going to be interesting to see, okay, does Chauncey employ the same style? Because you got to be able to play to your opponent. The Blazers have done a really good job of that. Atlanta doesn't have much shooting, but also they didn't have much shot creation, right? Like Trae Young is pretty much the only guy out there that you would trust to consistently create shots. Jalen Johnson as well, but they don't have much shot creation. So you play to your advantages, which is being able to fly around, being able to create some chaos. You have length and athleticism, and you're also playing to your advantages in terms of where Atlanta was weak. And, they gave up 65 in the first half. It wasn't good. That's when you switch things up, and that's what they did. And in third quarter, they give up 17 after giving up 33 and 32 in the first couple of quarters. So really impressive adjustments coming out of halftime from Chauncey. I've
been able to say that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to say that, man. As much as I crap on Chauncey, right? I don't want to criticize Chauncey. I wish he was a great coach. That was a good halftime adjustment. Now, when the Blazers stopped forcing those turnovers, their offense faltered, but they had guys come up with big plays, and that's where you hope that continued development. You got guys that can score shots, but the offense on the other end wasn't that great. But I mean, Shaden kind of bailed it out. If you want to touch upon him.
Yeah, and this is what we've been talking about with Shaden is he tends to be invisible for long stretches, and if he needs to take that next step, he's got to be super aggressive and be that guy who steps up in those moments. And he scores our last 11 points. I think he had 24 in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So he really stepped up when we needed him to, it was. If this is the version of Shaden we get, I think that's as a floor. I mean, not scoring 30 points a game, obviously, but just his level of aggression in the second half of this game, I think is really nice. He wasn't trying to do too much necessarily, but he shot when he had to. There was that one possession he dribbled like the whole possession and then got a foul called at the end. I just thought he did a really good job of playing within the offense. And, man, how nice is it to have players again that can throw those lob passes? And you mentioned this earlier. You haven't mentioned it on air, but I'll let you do that. What do you our offensive players being able to throw those lob passes? That's been a key, I think, in this stretch too. Is just the ability to get easy baskets is an element that the Blazers have been missing for. I mean, it goes back to even the good teams with like Dame and LaMarcus and Batum and West. Like, we didn't get a lot of easy baskets on those teams either.
Yeah, the last time I can remember somebody being good at throwing lob passes was Andre Miller, but it was mostly like Aldridge was at the high post and would spin to the rim, like backdoor to the rim. It wasn't a ton of like pick and roll at a dead sprint. I'm just gonna lob it up and our center's just gonna dunk it on your head. And these young guards are getting scary good at throwing lobs. And you got to have lob targets for these guys. And it was funny because, like, I remember last year, talking about Klingen. Is like, oh, is Klingen quick enough rolling to the rim to be able to, like, keep up with Scoot as he drives? Like, you remember that conversation? And at the end of the day, it's just like, man, if you're Scoot and you can go downhill and then, like, toss it, toss it back and you got Klingen rumbling behind you, like, Klingen's going to be able to get downhill. Also, Klingen's footwork is good. And that's where it's like Klingen is just quick enough to keep up with those, and Klingen has been a great lob target for these guys, man. And there's even a play where Scoot drove and kicked it back to Robert Williams, and I don't remember if it was a dunk or a little push shot, but it's like both these centers, one is 6'9" and really athletic, one is a 7'2" giant, and both guys just roll hard to the rim. They're just always around the rim offensively, but they're never in anyone's way at the same time. So you're opening up all these lanes for your guys to drive, and then if they get rotated onto, you just lob it up around the rim and let the center just go get it. And the guards have been doing a really, really good job of that. Scoot looks like he's going to be a top 3 to 4 lob passer in the league right now. Like, his lob passing is extremely good for being a 20-year-old point guard, right? Shaden, too, though. Like, Shaden threw a lob in this game. And Shaden had some really nice passes in this game, 5 assists. A couple nice passes that didn't get cashed in by his teammates, but to see Shaden at 21 as a scoring wing being his archetype, but being able to, like, just see these lob passes the way that he's been able to see them a couple of times this year is really, really encouraging, because you just saw Dallas make a run to the finals by having 2 elite scoring guards with athletic centers that if you help onto their scoring guards, you help onto their guys that can get downhill, get to the rim, they're just going to throw it up and their centers are going to dunk on you time and time again. Mm-hmm. And the Blazers are kind of doing the same thing to teams right now that Dallas team did in the playoffs. And obviously they're not as good as Dallas, although Dallas is up 5 with 3 minutes left against OKC right now. And if they lose, they're 6-8, which is the same record as the Blazers. So, maybe they are as good as Dallas. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a really good strategy, because all of a sudden it's just, okay, how do you take away the big on a lob? Like, how do you help onto guards driving the lane? Because most of the time it's always going to be the center guarding the roll man, or the center that's dropping in the pick and roll. Okay, how do you take away the lob? You got to rotate to that. And it's going to be a situation where if teams start catching on, the Blazers are going to be able to get wide open threes, and Scoot's, like, kick out passes have impressed me throughout his time in his career, and Shaden has the size, wingspan, and athleticism to kind of, like, rise up and skip the ball out to the wing, like, over the top of the defense. That's where it's going to open that up, and then you're just basically playing in a way where you should be able to consistently create good shots and advantages out of the pick and roll. And that is, I think, the key to their half-court offense being better this year, hopefully, than it was last year when they were dead last in offense. Is you got these centers that'll roll hard, and you're either getting dunks or they're getting putbacks, because that's the thing. If you're rolling behind a play and the shot goes up, like, you're running at the rim, you're able to get some putbacks. And that's just going to collapse the defense even more on some of these drives. And that's part of the reason why they've been better without DeAndre Ayton. Because instead, Ayton, you got him stopping at the free throw line and shooting a fadeaway mid-range that he makes, 35% of this year. And it allows teams to collapse onto Scoot. It allows teams to collapse onto Sharpe. It's why Scoot's finishing has not been as good with Ayton on the floor compared to being next to anyone else at the center position. And instead, it's like, okay, you're popping it back for a 35% shot. You're not getting to the line. It's just not good offense. And that is the biggest difference. People view Ayton as the most skilled offensive center on this team. I don't argue that, but mid-range shots for a big man, not the best play. It's not the best option. Go dunk on someone. Roll hard to the rim. Catch lobs. You got guards that'll throw them. And it's just much better action, much better offense, much more fun to watch, and it sparks this team too. You can tell this team starts to feel themselves when they're throwing these lobs and you're getting these alley-oop dunks.
Well, they're momentum plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you covered a lot of ground there. Going back to the lobs thing, there was like a half a season with Jake Layman where we were starting to do that again. Him and Evan Turner combined for some lobs that were nice. But yeah, consistently, it was like Camby, Andre Miller when they taught LaMarcus how to roll when they were overplaying him in the post. And but ever since then, it's been very infrequent. Sharpe, I was more impressed with the assist than the 24 points in the second half. It just the way he took over running the offense, getting downhill, and you mentioned the bigs rolling. One of the key things for that is defenses eventually are going to sag a little bit and make the Blazers score on like a runner or a floater. And I don't know if I trust Scoot necessarily to shoot those yet. I mean, he's going to need to learn how to do that eventually, and hopefully he can do that. But Sharpe pulling up in space from like 12 to 16 feet is automatic, it seems. And if defenses are going to start giving him that, he'll kill them. And if not, I mean, we see what Sharpe could do with a full head of steam going to the basket.
Yeah.
And if he's also able to pass out of that as well, like a point guard, I mean, we have something special there, I think.
Yeah. His mid-range is automatic when he doesn't fade away. There was a shot where he had like all this space and could have rose straight up and like faded away on it. I like when he's like going straight up with it because it's smooth, man. It looks really good. And with how athletic he is, no need for him to fade away sometimes the way that he will from the mid-range. Like, go rise above somebody. You know what I mean? But like that's something for him to learn. He's 21. He's just getting started. So, you know, this was a phenomenal 2-game stretch from him. I mean, he's struggled with his 3-point shot this season and only shot 33% last year. I don't think he's like a good 3-point shooter yet, but he can make tough 3-point shots, if that makes sense. And like that was a big clutch time 3. And some scorers aren't necessarily the best 3-point shooters, but they'll hit the big threes. You know what I mean? They'll hit the big ones. He's 3 for 8 in this game. You know, good enough. Hit that last one. That was a super difficult 3. Like stepping back from that range at the shot clock buzzer. That's an insane 3. I think he just needs to get a little better at catch and shoot. But it's funny because he shot 36% his rookie year, and a lot more of them were catch and shoot. So it's just, okay, can he be a league average volume 3-point shooter? I think that's one of the keys for him to unlock. He should have had more points in this game. He's 7 for 12 from the free throw line. Got to clean that up. But he gets the line 12 times.
Biggest negative you could say is the free throw shooting was not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he hits that 3. Banton hits a double clutch 3 at the free throw or at the shot clock buzzer. You take those 6 points away, we win by 4. I mean, who knows what would have happened? But like, those were 2 big shots in this game, and like you said, you have to have guys who can make them. But that's how razor thin some of these games could be, to be on the losing end if you don't make those tough shots as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's the hope of a star on this roster. Like, and the conversation I've always had with Sharpe is he has a ton of upside. It's really hard though to become like a top 20 player in the world. And for him this season, it's just like the flashes need to be more consistent. They need to be more consistent because he's had really big games last year in his second season, right? And still with how early it is, it's like, okay, he has time to find that consistency. But there's a ton of guys that can have flashes and big scoring nights if they're feeling it. There's only a few that can consistently score the ball at that level, game in, game out, dealing with a ton of defensive attention, dealing with the best defender on him. So Sharpe's done 2 games in a row, 33 last game, 32 today, hit some tough shots. There's kind of 2 points to this message. One is like, okay, hopefully he can keep it up because that'll give me more hope that he's the guy on this roster. I am the most... Like, if I had to bet on anyone becoming a star guard, on this roster, it would definitely be him.
I don't think there's any question about that right now.
Yeah, he just has the traits. Whereas, like, you know, he's bigger than Ant. He's more athletic than Ant. I think his feel just for being a lead guard might be a little bit better than Ant's. Not necessarily to put Ant down, you know, if we're talking about Ant from last year, just, you know, it's more of a compliment to Sharpe. Like, just his feel for the game seems pretty good, man, in that role. And then Scoot, obviously, is like the 3-point shot and not being the best shooter. Like, he has to figure that out. He's 0 for 3 today. he needs to figure out how to be able to hit threes at an average clip off the dribble if he wants to like really open up his game at his size. And that's just such a big if, right? So it's like Sharpe's obviously the hope going forward, and games like this help solidify that hope a little bit more. It's just there needs to be more consistency there. But also at the same time, with how special he is as an athlete, like not all of it has to be off of creation like a guy like Luka, so to say. He can get these alley-oop dunks. Like there is that play with Banton where Sharpe gets a back screen and came off it like he wasn't expecting a pass, but like Banton just threw it anyways, and Sharpe's like, oh, the ball's in the air, I'm going to go dunk it. You know what I mean? And gives an alley-oop
Congo kind of messed that play up, but we'll take it, right?
There was a play where like Robert Williams threw him a chest pass when he was wide open cutting baseline. It should have been a lob. Like you can just throw the ball around this room, this guy will go and get it. So we'll be able to get buckets off the ball and off of like curls and off of motion and maybe be like a star level scorer where half of it's coming off of playing out of the offense or playing off guys, where most star level scorers is like you give them the ball and they go make something happen. You know, Dame, SGA, Luka, like all these guys. So I think that's where Sharpe could be different and special, and it could help him become more consistent. Is just getting more off of those plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always have to like take a step back and think, okay, these last two games were only his fifth and sixth game of the season, coming off missing 50 last year. If this guy is already showing these things now, I mean, maybe the thoughts on being consistent and all that kind of stuff, I mean, he's going to have inconsistent parts, but maybe they are a lot less worried about that than some of us fans were, because I think there's a reason why he seemingly just got placed in the starting lineup without earning it back. I think it's pretty obvious that they thought the same way of him, and thought he could have this type of breakout. So now it's just, like you said, putting it together consistently and game in and game out. During that 10-game stretch in his rookie year where he played awesome, he had that one game against the Pelicans where Herb Jones just completely took him out of the game. It just face guarded him the entire game, and he couldn't do anything. And so we have to find a way to avoid, when he starts to get all the defensive attention, switch to him, because it's going to happen if he keeps having 30-point games. He's going to have to find a way to still make plays and contribute. And like you mentioned, his frame, the way he gets his shots, some of the things you can do with him off ball, with the lobs and stuff like that, I think it does lead to that being a little easier than it would be with a smaller guard, whether we're talking about Dame, Scoot, or CJ, or whoever we were talking about. Those Anthony, all those guys, those kind of guys can get taken out of games with double teams, with length, things like that. We've seen that for years. So if we have a player who has the ability to not only create shots but has a little bit of size to also not be taken out of the game, I think that's a really good sign that he could become that player. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too high, but it's tough, like watching him and not thinking, man, if he's this good already, like what's he going to be when he's like 23? You know, like I don't know. It's really cool.
I'm muted. Okay, no, I'm not muted. Shout out to Josh Sargent, $5 donation, says, I'm not even worried about the tank anymore. This team is just pure joy to watch now. Yeah, enjoy this team. Enjoy this team, because this is fun basketball. We've waited so long for fun basketball in Portland, and, it's just the start, right? Obviously, we're rebuilding towards something, but this stretch of games has been a lot of fun to watch, and hopefully it's something that is a sign of better things to come for this organization. Thank you, Josh Sargent, for the $5 donation.
Well, thanks, Josh. And then I saw you pin Bouquet's message. Why was that, Tori?
Because he won our giveaway, or he was a part of our giveaway night last stream. We have a giveaway wheel, and he won a free pinned message for the entirety of stream. So shout out to him. And Yeah, just stay on the lookout for giveaway nights. If you join our Discord, you can see our schedule for giveaway nights and different post-game shows and that sort of thing. And if you follow our socials, that's just pay attention to our posts, as normally we do contests to be able to spin the giveaway wheel in terms of like predicting stuff that happens during the game. So it's just a fun way to keep things fun this year. And shout out to him. His comment is Max Delano Banton. So have you seen Delano Banton's like per 36 numbers?
That's insane, man. I know.
Like go ahead.
I'll just say, like, they are awesome. There's no way you can keep that up. Like, it's not physically possible. Like, it's never happened before. But we're gonna enjoy it while it happens, right?
His box plus minus is a positive 9.2. 9.2 for his career. It's a negative 1.1. Last year in Portland, it was a negative 0.8, and in Boston, it was a negative 4.1. So I don't pay a ton of attention to box plus minus, but he's a 5.8 offensive box plus minus, 3.4 defensive box plus minus. Like, just insane. He's going into this game, he's averaging 26 points per 36 minutes, 6 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 3 steals, and 1.5 blocks, which is just absurd. Like, I've always said, like, Banton's a guy that's just, he's a scorer, right? He's a scorer first. He doesn't pass the ball enough, doesn't make, like, the right read enough before this season. I mean, but he's been better this year as a passer. He still has moments of tunnel vision where he, like, starts feeling himself and just has to go take a shot. There was a possession when he shot the air ball floater where Denny was right behind him, and I swear he saw Denny, and Denny's wide open from 3, just hit one, and he just refuses to kick it back to him. Instead, air ball's a floater, and it's like, dude, just make the simple play, man. But he is what he is, which is a super aggressive scorer. 26 minutes tonight, he shoots 19 times. He knows how to get shots up. And he makes shots. The thing is right now, and this is what's making him really, really good right now, he's hitting his threes. He was 42% from 3 going into this game, and he's 4 for 8 from 3 in this game, right? For his career, he is a 30% three-point shooter. So you have to hope, if you're Portland, that what he's shooting from 3 right now is legitimate, okay? Because we've seen him have stretches, including in his time in Portland last year, where he'd have he played 30 games last year. There was some stretches where he's shooting 40% from 3, but he ended his time in a Portland uniform last year shooting 31% from 3 as a Blazer. If he can make threes, it opens up his game even more. He becomes a better off-ball player, and, I mean, his stroke is smooth. Like, he has a good shot. It's just in a game like this, he had a double clutch 3 at the shot clock buzzer, which was just wild, man. Like, he's just something else right now. And 4 assists, 5 turnovers. He's a scoring wing who can pass a bit. He's not a point guard. And I was critical of the decision to have him bring the ball up on Twitter, but that wasn't necessarily to criticize Banton, right? I think, like, a lot of people view him as, oh, he's a 6'9" point guard. Isn't that so cool to have? But he struggles bringing up the ball against pressure. And Dyson Daniels picked his pocket twice in this game. The last game he played, he got his pocket picked at least twice. He's not like a play initiator. He's just he's a playmaking wing, which isn't a bad thing. That's just what he is, because he struggles bringing up the ball and initiating offense against pressure. Now, credit to Dyson Daniels. He's been the league leader in deflections and steals this season, but,
by far.
Yeah, by far. So, that's a tough matchup, but it's like, okay, give it to somebody else, let him bring the ball up the floor, and Banton can play out of the offense and get the ball and really make things happen. And with how bad this offense was last year, and then so far this season, Banton was a shot in the arm, won the Blazers that Pelicans game where he went off in the fourth quarter. He's playing way too well right now to play him anything less than like 20 to 25 minutes a game. He plays, as I said, 26 in this one. He's just having such a huge offensive impact. It's like, how much of this is sustainable is the question. How much of this is real? Because he's always had skills offensively, always been able to make plays, always been able to be crafty with the ball, make some shots. But when you struggle from 3 and guys don't really have to respect it, it's really hard to drive. You're really hard to play off the ball. It just creates a lot of issues. So if this 3-point shooting is a sign of things to come, then it's part of the reason why he's scoring the ball so well right now. You have to hope that he maintains that, because he's a special player if he's able to knock down shots, because he's always had the dribble drive game.
I mean, I think the shot looks good.
Yeah. I never understood why he was such a bad 3-point shooter.
Right, yeah. I don't think it's a case where it's like like Scoot, you can tell there's stuff mechanically wrong, and
Yeah.
it's like there's a reason he's not shooting well. But like with Banton, like I don't know, it's kind of like what I was going to say about Sharp earlier. Um, it, sometimes they just take bad shots, or you take a step back shot. I mean, Anthony's done this too all season long, where you take some really bad threes with the defender in your face, like a sidestep three, and that hurts your percentages. And I know, like you said, sometimes you got to make tough threes, but um, there were so many times in this game where he just took a shot because he was open instead of like forcing a shot, and that's how I want to see him play. But yeah, I completely agree. Don't necessarily think he's a point guard. He's a great secondary ball handler to have, and that's really important. Um, and if we're going to start talking about this team being average or better this season instead of being a bottom feeder, we like those type of teams do need someone off the bench that can just get you buckets. And so far, I don't think there's been a better player in the league at just coming in and being a microwave scorer than Banton so far this year. So yeah, I mean, it's been a good luxury to have. It's basically on a minimum contract too. So really good value there. Hopefully he can keep it up. I'm not sure where this will lead to, like in the Pantheon long term in terms of Scoot, Banton, Anthony, Sharp minutes, because I think that's one of the things that these absences have been really good for the Blazers is they were trying to play like 12 guys at one point in the rotation, and you just can't get a rhythm like that. There were games where Banton didn't even play until the fourth quarter of the second half, and I think it's time to kind of shorten the rotation and make some tough decisions about some of those players. So yeah, I think, but I think every team, if you're trying to win, needs that kind of guy who can get buckets for you off the bench and make sure that your bench doesn't go ice cold when you're either in a game or it's close. You don't want your bench to lose or get far behind, and then at the same time, if you're losing by a lot, you don't want to by losing by even more when your starters come back in. So yeah, I think it's good to have. We'll see if his shooting splits regress back to the norm or not. But if he becomes a 40% three-point shooter or anywhere close to it, this guy's a very useful rotation player in the league.
Yeah, he's a really good sixth man if he's playing like this. It's somebody that can come into the game and really give you a shot in the arm offensively. And we've seen the starting lineup struggle a ton at times offensively, and he's been a needed addition to the rotation to help solve for those issues. And I think if he continues to play like this, it just makes it easier to offload a guy like Simons. But at the same time, it's like, okay, maybe the best option, if Simons got right, is Simon, Sharpe, and Banton off the bench, You want to be patient with Scoot, and he's only 20 years old, so this team is just in a weird spot in terms of you got three young guards you're building around, but then you also got this fourth one who's, a 2-3 type guy, but you're loaded at the small forward spot. You got Avdija, you got Kamara. Chris Murray will play spot minutes there. Rupert will play spot minutes there. You don't have a need for a three, so it's just like, okay, how do you handle the minutes? And, Thibault, if he gets healthy, which I don't think they're going to rush him back at all, like, does he take Banton's minutes? If Simons comes back, how many minutes is Banton playing? And that's just where you have some guys, and there's obviously some talent on this team, but I think there is an element of addition by subtraction in the way where Simons was struggling. Okay, now you don't have him. It allows Sharpe to step up, and it allows Banton to get more minutes, and he's playing insane in the minutes he's been given this year, right? So you're better right now because of it. Now, Banton's not going to maintain that, and Simons is much better than he's played, but that's just where it creates a conundrum for this organization moving forward is Okay, well, how much stock do we want to put into Banton right now? How much stock do we want to put into Ant's struggles at the start of the season? How do we clear this up? And also, there's an element of, okay, they're playing a specific style of basketball well. That's why they've been more competitive. And sometimes you just need guys that fit an identity. And even if you have less talent out there on the floor, if it's players that fit the way you're trying to play and fits a style of basketball that gives you a legitimate edge, then it's going to be better. So which guys fit that vision? Which guys fit into the style of play? And that's where, yes, DeAndre Ayton has some talent, but he does not fit into the style of play of this team. He does not help our guards enough in the pick and roll. He doesn't set good enough screens. Defensively, Chauncey doesn't seem to trust him to play at the level of the screen. Like, has he ever done it with Ayton in the lineup? He did it with freaking Klingon tonight. So, it's there's an element of addition by subtraction with Ayton, I think. And if Simons is playing well, especially because they need like his offense, I think he can help this team. It's just something this organization has to figure out is where are they going with this roster, because there's definitely some talent. And when you can bring in a guy who apparently was like close or near the end of the roster and maybe a cut candidate this past offseason, and then you bring him in and so far this season per game, he's playing in 13 minutes but giving you 9 points. Per 36, he's given you 26, 6, 4, and 3 on solid efficiency. Like, what do you do, man? So it's going to be fascinating to see the way they figure it out and the way some of these guys, the way they're playing, the way it shakes out in the long run.
Yeah, in my opinion, you have to, from this point forward, you have to earn your minutes. If you have this many people playing well, you can't just do that. And that's why I think you got a little bit of pushback on this. You're saying that Denny shouldn't have been removed from the starting lineup and Sharpe shouldn't have just gotten it. And it did seem like that was a little bit of a case of they're giving him that position without earning it first. And now since then, I mean, obviously he's earned the right to start with the way he's played the last 2 games. But I think this has to apply to DeAndre Ayton, to Jeremy Grant, to Anthony Simons, and then to any of the other guys who are on the team who are playing well right now. That's not guaranteeing you any minutes. Like, there should be games where I don't know how many. It didn't feel like Grant played a ton of minutes in this game, but I could be wrong. He came back in. He
played 28 minutes. He had 5 fouls.
Yeah, but like I kind of like
these 3 wins though. These 3 wins. How much has Jeremy Grant contributed to him? Now he had 3 steals, 2 blocks today. If anything, like his defense has been better in these 3 games, and it's been better than his offense. He's not really offensively contributing to these wins at all.
And that's been fine. Like it's almost better that way.
Like you don't have him, Ayton, or Ant, and you're doing enough to be able to win games with an offense that, with those guys, has been bottom of the league.
Yeah, but I just think, I mean, if Banton's playing the best, you play him over Scoot and Simons right now. Like I hate to say that, like in terms of development for some of the guys, but I mean, we got to play who's balling out, and you got to show that the people who are playing the best deserve the minutes. And if Banton's doing that, I think he deserves to play more. Now, I don't know if I would ever start Banton because I like that type of archetype off the bench. Yep. But, I mean, if he's outplaying everyone, I also see the argument that, like, he's earned to get to start. But,
I mean, they like, finishing games is as important as starting them for guys that aren't starters already. Like, I think the most important thing in regards to guys that are, like, the starting lineup is – if you take somebody out of the starting lineup, you're almost demoting them in a way.
Yeah.
And you're rolling back their role. And sure, they might get the same minutes, but I think a lot of players are going to view that as a demotion. Or, like, most players aren't going to like that, right? And Avdija even admitted he didn't like being taken out of the starting lineup, but he'll still play hard, so respect to him. we got to talk about him because he was really good today, and I felt like he should have played more than 25 minutes, which is just funny with the minutes allotment in this game. You know, it's Banton plays 26 minutes, Scoot played 30, but Scoot he was sloppy and not efficient, but he did have 10 assists. And he did play good defense. And for Scoot, it's just finding ways to not be a negative when maybe he's a little sloppy with the ball and not making shots. And he did that with his passing and his defense. And I think there should be some credit to that. He was frustrating to watch with some of his missed shots, some of his turnovers. But if you can make up for it with passing and defense, that's better than guys that don't make up for it with passing and defense.
Yeah, I agree on the passing. I don't know if I'm there on defense. He is making plays throughout the game on defense, which is good to see.
It feels like he's not really getting beat off the dribble anywhere near like he was last year. That's
true. There was when we got down early in this game, Chauncey called like the quickest timeout ever in this game. 3 straight plays, we had no one get back on in transition defense. Now, one of those wasn't his fault, but we saw Atlanta in the first half especially, and that's something that was a key adjustment in the second half was players getting back. But in the first half, we did a poor job. And once again, don't know in Chauncey's system whose responsibility that falls under, but in most cases, it's supposed to be the point guard who's the first one back on defense. So just still has to clean that stuff up, still has to find a way to be engaged off ball more often. But the improvements from where he was last year in those things is encouraging.
Yeah. Yep. That's kind of what you ask for, man. It's, guys aren't going out there trying to make turnovers. Guys aren't going out there trying to miss 3-point shots. Like, what do you control? You control your decision-making and your effort on defense. That's what you control the most. Now, you obviously want to be a good 3-point shooter. You control that with the work that you put in during the year, during the offseason. But just in any game, like, you might not make threes. You might make a couple of mistakes, might be a little sloppy. There might be a good defensive play that causes a turnover for you, right? So what do you control the most? Do that. Make up for it. If you're having a tough shooting night, if you make a couple mistakes, good defensive plays, whatever, turn over the ball a couple times, go out there, make the right unselfish play, go out there, play defense. Go out there, have a couple of plays where you're rotating onto a big man as a point guard and actually having an impact on a defensive play. Because there was 2 of those today. That was impressive. Use your athleticism that way. You know what I mean? And he ain't making those defense plays last year. So he's becoming more active defensively. So that's where, man, I just wish he could consistently make threes and shoot better. But like 2.5 to 1 assist to turnover ratio is fine. Like if you get 10 assists, most of the time you're going to have 3-4 turnovers. So handling the ball as much as he does. So, it's a good sign from him. And we'll talk about Denny in a little bit. Just to wrap up the Banton conversation, man, it's They got to figure out what they have there. Like they just have to figure out what exactly he is right now because he's playing like a star, but I feel like most people, even the Banton lovers, agree. Okay, he's not a star.
Well, we have one person chatting.
Well,
not tonight. But.
I know what you're talking about. But so he's playing like a star, but he's not a star. He started off as a bench warmer. He's somewhere in between star and bench warmer, right? And this is which is a wide range. Yeah, it's a wide range. But my point is you would think okay, if he was doing this in practice, they would have played him at the start of the year. So is this recent, or did he just need opportunity? And how much of this is legitimate? Because I don't think he's a star, but he's obviously not a scrub. He's obviously not a bench warmer. Okay, so like I said, it's somewhere in between. Where exactly is it in between that? Is he a guy that if he got enough minutes can keep this up enough where he's a 6th man of the year candidate, like a top 10 6 man? Maybe. I mean, with how well he's played and the things he can do offensively at his size, I can't say no. Is he a guy that maybe is even better than that? And keeps this up to the point where it's like, man, he maybe should start over, over Scoot. If they trade away Simons, like maybe Scoot should come back off the bench for Banton. I don't know. Like what exactly is Banton? Because we know he's a really gifted scorer. It's just basically how consistently can he do it? Is the 3-point shooting real? And if he starts getting game planned for, can he maintain his efficiency enough to be an effective volume scorer?
Yeah, and so I know we have a lot of people who may not have watched us for years, but this is something that Tori and I think about a lot more than other media type things. And that's moving forward past this year. Banton is on a great contract right now.
Yeah.
But he's a free agent after this year. You're going to have to pay him if he's playing like this, right?
Yeah.
So how does that look? How do you pay him when you're already paying all these other guys? So do you trade contracts to be able to pay him in the offseason? And is that how you use the cap space flexibility you get with all these other trades?
Or do you try and extend him now if you want him a part of your future and you feel like he's going to break out? Like, can you extend him now? That sort of thing?
Well, the extension rules, they changed them to allow you to pay more, but yeah. I think the most we could offer him is like $5 or $6 million right now. So
yeah, that would be my question. Would he take?
I don't think he's taking that right now. The way he's playing right now.
But you know who he kind of reminds me of? This is going to be a really random comparison, and it's of a different sport. But he reminds me of Victor Robles, who's a Seattle Mariner. He came in out of nowhere, got cut, and came in out of nowhere and was like phenomenal. But was an upcoming free agent because he got cut and like signed on with the Mariners, on like a 1-year deal, and played phenomenal. And everybody's like, oh man, he's going to get paid too much in the offseason. He's going to leave. Like he's been great for this team. And they signed him to like a 2-year, $5 million a year extension. And people were like, oh, that's a steal. But there's question about like, okay, how much of his breakout was legitimate because he was in the league for years and like really struggled. But it's like, okay, well, if he gets locked up because he wants to be in Seattle and he gets locked up at a decent price, even if he regresses a little bit, but he's also guaranteeing he gets paid because he hasn't been paid yet. Banton kind of feels similar in that regard where, okay, maybe he would take $5 to $6 million right now. Now he is so confident in his game that maybe not, but he's never been paid before. So maybe that security with like a player option is something that he would like. And shows that the team is somewhat invested in him. We saw Nasir Little take kind of a deal like that longer term, but we were surprised that it was a little bit lower, and now he's out of the league. Thank goodness he took that deal because I don't know if he was actually going to make as much money as he ended up making off that deal if he didn't take it, even though it was a little bit surprisingly low. So that's going to be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah. Just to be clear, though, the rules of baseball, you can extend someone for whatever you want, whereas there's a limit to what you can in basketball. So, yeah, that's a fascinating question. If you offered him like a 2-year, $10 million extension right now, does he take that? Yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing enough where I wouldn't be mad if they signed him to that at all. It's tradable contract down the line. Like, if they feel like he's a part of their future, then maybe they should do that. But then also, is he like not trade eligible this season then if that happens? Like, yeah, you have, because there's weird rules around the extensions and stuff.
The new CBA is a maximum, or it's an automatic 6-month for any extension. So
that's the thing. If you're going to do that, you have to know, like, okay, we want him back next year, because if he continues to play like this, even if he's a rental, I think there's a team out there that could be like, man, maybe this dude could help our bench, and maybe you can get something back for him if you don't see him a part of your future. But that goes back to the whole conversation. The Blazers are going to have to figure out which guys to keep and which guys to move forward with and which guys to trade in order to establish what exactly this roster is, because you have some talent on this roster. You have some guys that are, like, your most talented players don't seem to really help you win games, whereas with your younger guys, you have more of an identity, an established identity that gives you an edge. So how exactly do you move forward from that? And, of course, it's like, okay, do you give up a talented guy for not much trade value just to establish, okay, these are the guys we're moving forward with? those are the fascinating conversations we're going to have as we talk trades leading up to the deadline.
Remember a few years ago when we didn't use our mid-level exception and I suggested just signing someone to have a trade asset in the offseason?
Yeah.
I was thinking about we didn't use our mid-level at all, our exception, this last offseason, right? I'm not forgetting something, right?
No, we didn't.
Because we didn't sign anyone free agent-wise, right? So I was thinking the problem is if you cut him, he'd be picked up on waivers immediately. But I was trying to think of a way to use, instead of using an extension, since he's non-guaranteed contract, maybe you could figure out a way to use your mid-level and give him more money this year in exchange for taking like a longer deal of less overall money or something. I don't know.
Interesting.
Maybe something to look at in the future weeks or something.
Yeah. And he's been better defensively. He's still soft on the ball, but that's also part of the reason why he's struggled to play minutes. He's just not good defensively. But he's fit into, okay, we have length that's quick, that can like fly around. He's fit into that, and he's made some defensive plays, like gotten deflections, gotten some steals, led some runouts off of those types of plays. So he's contributing more defensively than he ever has in his career, and that's part of something where you hope that he can become a little bit more solid on the ball. Because even in this game, there's just a couple times where he just like opens the door when he guards the ball in a way that he shouldn't. But he has length, so he can still recover and like stay in a play when he does that. Compared to somebody like Ant, like if Ant does that, he doesn't have the length to really stay in that sort of play. Any value defensively from him is a bonus at this point, and then the 3-point shooting, of course, as well. And then when he makes the right read, makes the right pass, he can pass. It's just he does get some tunnel vision. So can you continue to try and develop him in terms of trying to make the right reads, the right plays?
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing though: when he's playing, and it's like Tamani or even Chris Murray, Jeremy Grant, I'm forgetting his Denny. Like a lot of times in those lineups, you have 3 or 4 guys with a similar body type that can guard similar ways, but he's like the 4th guy who can do that, right? Where in the past it's been like, well, you have length, let's put you on ball, like we've done with Jeremy, and now all of a sudden Jeremy is like our 3rd option, if you want to call it that, on defense. And he's playing really well on defense because he's not asked to overextend his skill set to guard like the other team's best player. Instead, he's guarding the other team's third best player, and he can help off. So Banton's, in most cases, guarding the 3rd or 4th best player, and they're able to switch a lot of stuff, but it's not putting as much pressure on him to be in those situations where he is having to guard the primary ball handler as much as he has in the past. It still happens when you switch, but I think just that little ability to have guys like Denny and Kamara, especially, who can shut down perimeter like penetrators, I think that helps a lot.
Yep, absolutely. Shout out to Dylan Metcalf, $5 donation, says, did y'all already talk about Tamani? Dude keeps making game-winning plays on the defensive end. We'll talk about him in a second. Thank you for the donation. Shout out to SXKJX, a.k.a. Colt, member for a month, says, thoughts on the Chauncey challenge decision in the 4th? That was a bad challenge, man. Yeah. They don't overturn that. It's a stupid call because the NBA calls it. Like, the NBA calls that foul when Trae Young is jumping back into the defender as much as anyone and stopping only to draw a foul. Like, I think they should just let that go, but the NBA calls that stuff, and the NBA rewards that stuff. So don't challenge it because they were never going to overturn that. And some people were like, yay, they challenged in our group chat when they challenged. It's like, dude, they're not going to overturn that. And also they changed it to a 3-shot foul when it wasn't.
Right.
So it backfired.
That almost cost us the game.
Yeah. But luckily he misses one and then
Shea hits a 3, yeah.
Yeah, well, so he misses one, and then, so what, we were down 3, and then we get fouled, make a free throw, miss the second, get the offensive rebound. Shout out to Kamara. Kamara dug out that offensive rebound. That's the winning plays that Dylan was talking about. And then Shaden hits that clutch step back 3, so that was a 4-point possession on our end. So it didn't lose us the game, but yeah, it was a pretty bad challenge, and that's how I felt when he challenged it. I just hate that they reward that. I hate the way this league is refed. Shout out to Tristan Klein, member for 9 months, says, is Sharpe leader for most improved so far this year? Not yet, because going into this game, his stats were not any better than last year. Last year he averaged 15.9 points per game. This year going into this game, 15.2. His rebounds and assists were down, but his minutes were also down 7 minutes a game. And his efficiency is roughly kind of the same. He's better from 2, even worse from 3 going into this game. But, of course, it's just 5 games, and he's coming back from injury. He hadn't played in a while. So it's like if he keeps up playing like this and at the end of the season he's averaging 22 a game, then, yeah, you can have that conversation. But that's what it's going to need to be. Like, statistically, he has not particularly been better in terms of his seasonal stats, and most improved will never go to a guy who doesn't improve statistically. So,
yeah, and we played a couple of guys. I know Jalen Johnson was high on the list last year, and he didn't necessarily have the greatest stats in this game, but I mean, that's a guy who's much improved and has been a huge part of the Hawks team, and Dyson Daniels as well has shown a huge improvement, so maybe just getting more of an opportunity. But yeah, Sharpe's obviously if he averages in the 20s and continues to play well, I think he'll be in the conversation. It's going to be really tough. Well, I don't know, because tough might not be the right word. If the Blazers are a play-in team or like that have that kind of success this season, I think someone will get credit for it. And if Sharpe is becoming that go-to scorer, I think he will get a little bit of a bump. So maybe there is a bit of a narrative where he could be that, because everyone, including us, thought we'd be near the bottom of the West this year. So I think that's the only way. If he improves his overall numbers by a lot, becomes our like go-to scorer, and it also translates to winning games like it has these last 3, then I think he could be in the conversation. But without that, it's going to be tough if he doesn't have that narrative that some of the other players have.
Yep, absolutely. I'm getting sidetracked. I'm looking at in-season tournament standings, thinking about Friday's game.
Houston won again today. They're, 10-4 or something?
Yeah, they were a plus 21 in their win over the Clippers. Okay, so they're 1-0. Portland's 1-0. Minnesota's 1-1. Despite being 1-1, they're a minus 14. How are they a minus 14? We beat them by 14. How'd they win a in-season tournament game? I'm confused. I'm confused by ESPN standings, Eric, because the Blazers beat them by 14 and then they won, but they are still minus 14.
So it says the Blazers are?
No, the Timberwolves in the in-season tournament.
Is
it because the game went to OT? Yeah, so they're a minus 10 or a minus 14. They won by 4 in OT at Sacramento. But, point is, Minnesota is, 24 to 28 points behind the Blazers, which is like a tiebreaker, right? And the winner of the pool moves on. So they already have a loss, and they're behind the Blazers point-wise. Sacramento has a loss, and the Clippers have a 21-point loss. The Blazers, if they can win against Houston on Friday, I mean, that's the game for the in-season tournament. That is the game. Because Houston 1-0, Portland 1-0, Houston plus 21. If Portland can beat them, their point differential, if it's a close game, probably will end up roughly similar. But Houston will have a loss. Portland will be 2-0. There's a legitimate path to the final 8 with Portland just winning one of their final 2 in-season tournament games. If Portland can beat Houston on Friday. And their final 2 in-season tournament games are at the Clippers, the Blazers have already won that game, and at home versus the Kings. And I think the Blazers could win one of those. I think this in-season tournament, if the Blazers can beat Houston on Friday, I think they should maybe be the favorite to win the pool.
That's crazy, though.
Do you agree? Just doing the math in my head, that is the aim for the Blazers, man.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I want to see it. I would love to see Portland. Did I unplug my mic at all? Are you still there?
I can still hear you.
Okay, I don't know why my earbud started sounding a little bit different, but like, I would love a home game as part of the final 8, because the way, if you guys don't know, in season tournament, NBA Cup, 8 teams advance. It's the winner of each pool and then the next best team. So if Portland finishes second in their pool, they're basically compared to the 2 other second place finishers in their pool, and it's the team with the best record, and then if there's a tiebreaker, it's the team with the best point differential. So even if Portland wins against Houston, it's even better if they blow them out, right? Because your point differential is looking really good, and that is a tiebreaker. So that's why you got teams like at the end of the Minnesota game, Portland was trying to score, Minnesota was trying to score, because point differential matters. So you got 3 pool winners and then a 4th team as the 4 teams that move on from each conference. Okay, so then you have an 8-team bracket, 4 teams from each conference. For the round of 8, it's played at the home arena of the higher seed. So Portland is like a 1 or a 2 seed, one of the top 2 pool winners, then they get a home game, in-season tournament playoff home game, which would probably be a pretty fun atmosphere, would probably be pretty fun. Who knows what our record is at that point, but that'd be cool. But just to get into that final 8 is just like good, almost playoff experience for these young guys, I think. And that's why I love about the in-season tournament, the NBA Cup. I know a lot of people thought it was a stupid idea, but it gives a team like Portland something to play for, man. You feel like you're playing for something, and it adds stakes to games that otherwise would just be another regular season game. And adds like almost a playoff feel to some of these games. It's not quite playoffs, obviously, but it's an opportunity for these young teams to experience something more than just like a normal regular season game. And seeing the way Portland got up for that with that first game against Minnesota was a lot of fun. And the atmosphere was pretty sick inside Moda. So,
well, not only that, but just the cumulative effect of winning that game, and now the way they played the 2 games since as well. Like, it's kind of turned their season around. Them showing up to that game,
Yep. SXKJX says we get a delusional LOL. Like, the point is this game against Houston means a ton. If they lose against Houston,
it's cool. Yeah.
If they lose against Houston, it's going to be really, really tough for them to advance. Really, really, like. They're probably not advancing at all. Like, if they lose to Houston. Because Houston's going to be 2-0, Portland's going to be 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota could beat them, I guess, but
then they're tied. But Houston, if they beat Portland, they're already +7, so they probably still have the edge in point differential. And then, Portland has to win the last 2 games, and that's a tall order for this Portland team, even if they're playing well. So, this game against Houston is the game. Because the other team that's 1-0. So, it means something. You're going on the road. Can they respond on the road? I kind of wish it was the next game, Eric. I kind of hate that in between that game and this game, they have to play freaking OKC on the road.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got a couple days off, and then you play OKC, and then you play Houston on Friday. So you're going to have some rest, You're going to be rested. Got to be ready to go, man. Gotta be ready to go. I think Portland can beat that Houston team. They've been good this year, but I think they're beatable.
Yeah, that game is the one, because outside of that, I mean, that's the middle game of 3 games and 4 nights. They're going to be tired after getting all this rest, but yeah, that one, you got to circle it.
Yep, circle it. If you lose, you're probably not making the final 8, man. Like, it's basically next to impossible for this team to achieve. If you win, I think they should be the favorite at any team in the pool. That doesn't mean necessarily more than 50-50 chance, but like, just their pathway is very clear if they can beat Houston. I think you win one of the final 2 games, and hopefully the game you lose you don't get blown out, or hopefully the game you win you blow them out because point differential. We'll see how the math works after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you just win all 4 freaking games. Imagine that. So I'm gonna be hyped up for that game against Houston next Friday. Maybe if you guys want to watch party for that, maybe we can discuss that, but I don't know. We'll see. We're caught up on messages. Tamani. Let's talk about Tamani because we said we were going to talk about Tamani. He struggled from the field in this game. He needs to get better finishing. He's made some improvements, but he's He's just not a good finisher around the rim for a player of his size and athleticism. He's 1 for 3 from 3. You know, that's fine. Like, he's been shooting the 3 ball really well. Was shooting 44% from 3 going into this game. 1 for 3. Like, cool. 1 for 7 from the field. Didn't get to the line. So he's like 0 for 4 from 2 in 35 minutes. Didn't get the free throw line. So just not having much of an impact as a scorer when he puts the ball on the floor. But he's been able to create some for others. He had 5 assists in this game with only 1 turnover. Had a really nice kick-out pass. His passing is really impressive for his archetype, because you look at his stat line, 3 points, but he has 5 assists, 4 steals, and that's Tamani for you.
Yeah, can't say enough of what he's doing on the defensive end. Offensively, like you mentioned, there was one time he's got to shoot the 3 when he gets kicked out. Just shoot it, man. Like, he's hesitating a little bit too much. I think Chauncey's getting on him about that too. So I think that's something that the coaches want him to do, is shoot that shot as well. Because I'd much rather him shoot a kick out 3 than drive in right now. It's like, that's not really working. But I also, I kind of want him to, he has the Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharpe early in their career type thing, where you try to like do too much in terms of shooting at bad angles, and you don't really have the right beat on the hoop when you shoot it, and
Scoot's doing that right now, man.
Yeah, Scoot's doing that too, yeah. And so there's so many times where it's just not there and he's shooting it anyway. Whereas if he maybe just took it towards the basket, he would get to the foul line more.
Yeah, or use his body shield the defender. Like, that's something that Ant really struggled with, right? And Scoot, I don't want to forget this thought. Like, Scoot needs to do a better job of like creating contact with the big and like trying to finish through contact and like get better angles and maybe get to the foul line. And he was doing that at the start of the year and getting to the foul line a lot, and that's just completely gone away.
It's fallen off, yeah. And I will say the same thing I said about Scoot. When Tamani drives in, I almost want him to pass more than I want him to shoot. And so hopefully he figures something out there.
He needs to pay attention to Banton and Denny and the way they decelerate. And like, I know Denny's not shooting the greatest percentages on these, but that's where Kamara can maybe become a really special player, is if he can drive and like decelerate and like finish, but then also we know he can see the floor, we know he can pass. So if he can like decelerate and just read things and like get better finishes and then open up passes and see the floor even better off of, you know, slowing himself down when he gets into the paint, then he becomes really dangerous. And that's the thing, is like, if you're 6'3", it doesn't work as well. But he's big enough and long enough where he can decelerate like that. There's a reason why Banton and Avdija and guys like Luka, you know, these big wings, are able to drive and decelerate and kind of like slow down and mess up the timing of shot blockers and like find windows to shoot the ball or kick out. It's because they're big wings, right? They're 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", whatever. That's how Kamara needs to start trying to drive. Like, there's a play where he drove hard with his right and missed a lay-in. Is like, man, I almost want you to like try and drive deep and then spin back to the middle to your left and like read the floor and maybe get to your left hand with a little like baby hook. And he works really hard, so I would expect him to improve doing that sort of stuff. It's a work in progress. But I mean, it's like, how we're critiquing the guy is a good thing, Eric, because it's like, oh, look at his passing right now. Look at his shooting 44% from 3. He needs to shoot more threes. Like, his defense is phenomenal, really special. If he could just slow down and, like, watch a little bit more, like, Luka film and decelerate and really open up his scoring in the lane, then imagine, right? Like, he was the 52nd pick and is a second-year player. He's the 52nd pick in the 2023 NBA draft. The fact that we're critiquing him and saying, like, this is what he needs to get better at right now is, like, a positive because of all the things that he does well already.
Absolutely. And I think, Denny's not finished well either this year. He's been terrible finishing. But you can see when he drives, he's looking for that baseline cutter or that dunker spot guy to be there. And a lot of times that person isn't there. And the Blazers started to get better at that with, I think it coincides with Ayton not being in the game, but with Klingon and Robert they've been doing a good job of being in that dunker spot. But I feel like if they just had one cutter on those Tamani and Denny drives, I think those guys are willing passers and would find them easily, and we'd get so many easy baskets out of it. So it's just one thing I want to see them do is just have a baseline cutter a little bit more often.
Yep, absolutely. Any other thoughts on Tamani?
No, I just got to shoot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we still got more to talk about, but tonight is charity night on the post-game show, and I just want to quickly talk about Shriners Children's Hospital. They provide free world-class care to kids facing serious medical challenges, no matter their family's ability to pay, whether it's for surgeries or treatments. Shriners is there for these kids when they need it most, but they can't do it without us. They're a nonprofit, so they accept donations. And if you want to donate today, there's a link at the top of the description box below. Please consider donating to the link. Let's make a real difference for these children and their families. Thank you so much for your generosity. We will be donating after the stream to that donation link. You can donate a one-time donation, or you can donate monthly. So it's a really good cause. They're a really great hospital, and just wanted to give them a shout out. We're going to be highlighting and showcasing some charitable causes over the course of the year, and this is our first. So definitely check out that link and consider donating. Also, let's talk about who have we not talked about today? Robert Williams. I mean, he's 6 for 6 again, Eric. 14 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, plus 20. He just has a winning impact. I don't know. Hopefully he can stay healthy, because this guy probably has more trade value than the other 3 vets, believe it or not. Like, if he stays healthy and plays like this to the deadline, because he just has such a huge impact. This is what a winning center looks like. It's just night and day different between him and Ayton, man. Just night and day different. He's having such a huge impact on this freaking team. The rebounding is elite. 3 offensive rebounds, a couple of assists, but I mean, just the finishing around the rim, the lob target that he is. Like, I wish you could combine him and Ayton, like put his mind in Ayton's body, because that would be maybe an all-star. But I mean, he's playing phenomenal off the bench right now. And honestly, next game with OKC being a small ball lineup, starting Jalen Williams at the center spot, I kind of like the idea of starting Robert Williams instead of Donovan Clingan, because it just feels like the type of matchup that Clingan will really struggle with. And, maybe you can try and punish him on the other end for guarding Clingan with like Jalen Williams or whatever. But he's been playing good defense at the center spot, and Clingan just is not far enough along as a post scorer to punish that. So I think maybe next game is where you start Robert Williams and let him chase around Jalen Williams or whatever, because he's definitely mobile enough to do it. And then off the bench, I mean, they don't really have a center, but like maybe you can put Clingan on, I don't know, Dylan Jones, Kendrick Williams. I don't know. You got to find a matchup for him.
Well, this is where I want to see the Blazers start. I mean, OKC, like you said, is tough to scheme up against, but that should be an advantage for us, having that size and having those lob passes and stuff like that next game.
I think it's an advantage with Williams, where it's not as much of a negative on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, because Clingan's going to have a tough matchup at the starters. I understand that. But yeah, like Rob, he just changes things schematically for us. Like, the things you can do on defense are completely different than any center we've had recently. And he's just such a smart player that you're never worried about him making the wrong rotation or being out of position. He had one where Tamani fell asleep on the backside of the defense, and he read it perfectly and knocked the pass out of bounds, almost picked it off. It's just such a smart player, and it's so fun to have a player like that. I don't know how long we'll have him for, whether it be injury or trade, but it's cool for right now.
Yep. In the past with this OKC team, You could go into the game saying, let's put Klingon on Josh Giddey because you don't got to respect his three-point shot. Or let's put Klingon on Lou Dort. OKC traded Josh Giddey to Chicago, got Caruso back, and then they still have Dort. The problem is Dort has become a legitimate three-point shooter. His career percentages, he's in his 6th season. That's crazy, man. He's in his 6th season already. His season three-point percentages by season go as follows. 30%, 34%, 33%, 33%, 39%, and this year he's shooting 45% from three. So the last 2 years, he's become a legitimate three-point shooter, and you can no longer guard him with someone like Klingon who can just, like, stay around the rim, stay in the paint to protect the rim, and then, like, dare Lou Dort to beat you with his jumper. Because Lou Dort is beating defenses with his jumper. He's shooting over 5 a game in 28 minutes. He's become a legitimate three-point shooter. Now, maybe that might be the best strategy when Klingon is in the game. It's like, okay, still make Lou Dort beat you, I guess. But like that's the problem is even the guys that aren't great three-point shooters, OKC's offense has so many weapons and is so good that those guys get such wide open threes that they still shoot decent percentages. Like I was watching the Thunder play. Who are they playing? I don't remember. But like Ousmane Dieng, he's shooting 26% from three. Okay, he's not shooting as well as I thought from three. He's like the one guy, but he only played 2 minutes tonight against Dallas. He's a spot minutes guy. You know, that'd be the guy to put Klingon on. But I've seen him multiple times this year. I guess I just watch when he's making threes where he's cashed in some open jumpers. And, you know, it's just trying to figure out, okay, how do you match up with a team that plays 5 wings? Because it would be nice to have Klingon's offensive rebounding and rim protection against OKC. It's just how do you minimize the damage on the other end?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. The good thing is both Rob Will and Klingon are playing well enough to where it's not like I don't think one guy is going to be offended if the other starts over the other one as long as they're both playing. And you also tell Klingon that Rob Will's not going to play on Saturday, obviously, so it's just a matchup thing. It's not that he's doing anything wrong.
Yeah. I mean, you can go small. Like, in that game, go with more Denny. You can play... I don't know, man. Like, I would play Denny as some small ball 5. Like, just play lineups with Denny, Banton, Chris Murray, and then one of Sharpe or Scoot, and one of Kamara or Grant. And I think that's a rotation against OKC, and maybe sprinkling Klingon. But like, if you play Klingon and like he can't get out on the 3-point line because they're running 5 out and have 5 shooters, then you gotta sub him. You gotta sub him out because there's almost nothing to really be gained from those experiences for Klingon. I know that might sound weird to people, but he has to get more agile and more athletic.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen overnight. So they have to be willing to pivot. Like I said at the start of the stream, you got to be able to play to your opponent and try and neutralize what your opponent does well and play to your own strengths. And against different lineups, the way you should play to your strengths might be a little bit different, just depending on how the other team is built. I mean, that's the chess match schematically of basketball that, unfortunately, Chauncey has never really played. He's never even sat down at the chessboard, it feels like. So today made a really nice third-quarter adjustment that played to the Blazers' hands, won them the game. They started pressing, and it's why they had a huge third quarter. But against OKC, it's a different team. So you can't just say, oh, because it worked against Atlanta, now we can go into it, which is the same exact rotation, same exact mindset against OKC. And then, oh, they beat you. It's like, oh, I don't know what happened. That's not who we are. We are the team that showed up against Atlanta. Well, no, teams are different, So it's just kind of sad that we have to explain that because the way Chauncey is coached. But
and for those that missed it, the Blazers provided an update on DeAndre Ayton earlier. Said he underwent additional imaging on his index finger, which revealed a deep contusion of the proximal phalanx.
Yeah, I chuckle just because I've never heard of what a proximal phalanx is.
I know. The Blazers always have, like, the weirdest injuries.
Isn't it a surprise that, like, Oh, he hurt his index finger. Okay, cool. He hurt his index finger. They
It
look
is his
great
right
for two.
fingers.
Yeah, yeah. We're like, okay, he hurt his index finger. They played great for 2 games, and then they're like, oh, he has a contusion on his proximal forlax phalanx, and updates will come later. I forget how they worded it, but basically, like, there will be.
It says he's out for today's game. Updates will be given when appropriate. Whatever
Yeah,
the heck
when
that
appropriate.
Means. What does that mean?
I don't know.
It's not appropriate to give us an update yet.
Like, okay, it's one thing if it's like, okay, you severely sprained an ankle or like something else. But it's for like a contusion on a finger. You know what I mean? It's just a little weird to me. Not to. I don't know. Like, part of me is like, oh, they see how this team is playing and just want to hold them out for longer. But I don't fully believe that. Right? But it's just weird, and it kind of leads me to think that might be something where they're just coming up with a reason to keep holding them out. I don't know. I feel like a lot of other people might feel that way too. It's just
you think
strange.
it was like, no, we really need to do this imaging, and he's like, no, it's fine. And then they're like, no, we really need to. Oh, look what we found, Aiton. Yeah, see, good thing we did it.
I don't know. Like, I don't tend to believe that they make up a medical report like that.
I know.
You know, so that's why I don't like fully believe that. It just makes you wonder. I mean, listen, Eric. We have to have this conversation. Let's save the conversation, okay? Let's save the conversation because I didn't talk enough about Denny. I think Denny was huge in this game. 2 for 4 from 3. His 3-point shot is looking better. 1 off the dribble. He's 4 for 7 from the field. Has 12 points. 8 rebounds. 3 offensive. 4 assists with only 1 turnover. A couple steals and a block. He did a little bit of everything today. A little bit of everything. The Blazers invested too much in Avdija not to see it through. I think they invested too much in Avdija. I know they won the game, but it's like in a game like this where he's good in every area, only plays 25 minutes. I don't know. I don't want him to get buried on the depth chart, especially if like Ant comes back where he's playing 20 to 25 minutes when he's playing well. Because you invested Malcolm Brogdon and 2 first-round picks, including a late lottery pick in this guy for a reason. And it's because he's a really good basketball player. Blazer fans that have only watched him in Portland don't believe he's a really good basketball player because he has shot very poorly in Portland. But he is a better scorer than this. He's a better shooter than this. Okay? And it was definitely a slump and definitely mental thing. I think he said he was dealing with something off the court, if I recall correctly. Hopefully I'm not confusing him with somebody else, but I believe dealing with some stuff off the court and in a new situation, new team that was just very stagnant at the start of the season. I told you guys that doesn't fit his play style. They've started doing a better job playing with tempo, playing with pace, playing with a little bit more flow offensively, and he's looked better. I told you guys, like that's the type of offense that he'll look better in. But he's always been doing the little things. He's been playing defense. He's been passing the ball. He's really good leading the break. You got all these lob targets. He can throw lobs really, really well for a forward. And he does the little things. And basically, you have to appreciate those little things and then wait for the shooting to come around. And if the shooting comes around and he has more games like this, he is so valuable because he literally has an impact in every area of the game at that point. And I just would hate it for he starts to get more comfortable, but his role is just limited. And because you got the team's playing well and you got some other guys who are trying to feature, he gets lost in the shuffle. Because it should never be that case considering how much they invested in him. So I thought he played great today. I thought this was his best game. Definitely his best stat line. He's had an impact, man. And lately he seems more comfortable offensively, which is really, really good.
Yeah, I don't think I'm misremembering this. I think both big runs we had, we got down early. Denny came in when it was 25-9, and we cut the lead to like 25-17 or something right away. And then right before half, we go on a run to kind of keep it close. And then, third quarter when we busted open, he comes in the game, and just love when he gets the ball on defense and just takes it fast up the court. It feels like good things happen all the time when he does that.
Yeah. He shot 50% from three each of the last 3 games during this winning streak. Okay. 3 for 6, 1 for 2, 2 for 4 tonight. Okay. Percentage from 2, he's still kind of figuring out what his dribble drive game is with this team. But he's cut down on the turnovers, only 5 in the last 3 games. He's averaging 12 points per game these last 3 games. Okay, but it's only coming in about like 21, 22 minutes a game. So 12 points per game in like 22 minutes a game. He had 5 assists that first Timberwolves game, 4 assists tonight. Like, he's starting to figure it out. On the month of, I don't know what he is on like the month of, I'll have to do the math, the month of November, but it's somewhere in the 30s from 3. So he's found his shot the last 3 games. You hope that continues. And I think he fits into the style and identity of this team that they've been playing with these past 3 games and that they've been trying to forge. And that's why I love the pickup of him. That's why I love the trade for him. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are down on that trade, but he helps this team establish their identity because the way he plays is how this team says they want to play. And it's the way this team has played the last 3 games. And he's played much better the last 3 games. Also, I think he works a lot better without DeAndre Ayton as well. And has looked much, much better without DeAndre Ayton the last 3 games. Those 2 guys just don't seem like guys that would vibe at all. Like, together. They just seem like opposites in a way. Chemistry-wise. So, maybe that has something to do with his recent play as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. What do you do with him, Eric? Like, this is why, in my opinion, you have to trade Grant because of Avdija.
Yeah. I don't.
For other reasons as well, but mainly because of Avdija.
Yeah. Since he's on a 4-year contract still at a really good deal, I don't think you necessarily have to force it this year. I think I want him. I'm cool with him coming off the bench. I feel like he's might have even been playing better than he has as a starter. And like you mentioned, it might be just because of who's missing out of our starting lineup. Maybe that has a lot to do with it.
Also, it takes time to adjust to a new situation.
Yeah. But I don't think he's fallen off or anything coming off the bench. So I think maybe you could still do that. But I do worry about when we're trying to play so many players about anyone coming off the bench not getting enough minutes. But yeah, definitely. I'm definitely fine with him coming off the bench as long as he gets the minutes he earns. But yeah, I don't know. I do think they need to address the problem. We've talked about that for 2 seasons now, but I don't know if it's necessarily hurting him at all to come off the bench.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't mind starting him in place of Klingon next game. I think a lineup with Scoot, Sharpe, Grant, Kamara, Avdija has the versatility that might be able to handle OKC. I would like to start Avdija and maybe put him on SGA. And then Kamara can handle some of that on-ball responsibility because that is the engine for that team. But you can put Kamara or Avdija on SGA. You can put the other one on Jalen Williams and just try and cut off the 2-headed snake there because everybody else plays off those guys. Nobody else really on that team is somebody you have to really worry about creation-wise. Isaiah Joe is a shooter. In this game against Dallas tonight, he was 2 for 6 from the field. They were all threes. Aaron Wiggins, he can make a play off the dribble, but he's mainly a shooter. He was 2 for 9 from the field and 2 for 7 from 3. Right? And then Lou Dort, he's not really much of a shot creator. The problem is when you struggle to contain Jalen Williams and SGA and they go off against you and then start collapsing the defense and kick out to those guys, then their offense hums. So you have to find a way to try and contain the dribble penetration between those two guys and try and limit the damage that they can do and limit the amount of possessions where they're collapsing the defense, kicking out to these shooters. Okay? And if you're able to do that, not only, if these other three guys in their starting lineup are like taking shots, you're able to get out on them a little bit easier if you're not having to fully help on drives. And that is the recipe for being competitive with them in this game. The problem is I feel like the Blazers are going to give up a ton of dribble penetration to J-Dub and SGA, and they're going to get theirs, and then the Blazers are going to have to help on them, and then they're going to kick out to open shooters, and they're just going to go off. So how can you find a way to limit those two guys? Because none of those other three guys are going to be setting great screens. Like, if you got to be able to get through a screen from Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. Now, Lou Dort is pretty thick, so, maybe you struggle with his screens. I don't know, but you should be able to fight through those screens. I mean, I just think it's clearly the recipe for how to defend this team without Chet and without Hartenstein. Now, when Chet and Hartenstein get back, I mean, that's a whole other problem. I mean, the team is the favorite in the West with those two guys. But without them, they are beatable. They just lost tonight to the Mavs, who are 7-7 all the year. You got Dylan Jones off the bench, Kendrick Williams off the bench, Casey Wallace off the bench, AJ Mitchell off the bench. You're not really worried too much about those guys' creation, although Dylan Jones can put the ball on the floor and make a play. And he's been he has been awful from three, though, man. 6% from three. I didn't realize he was that bad from three.
Well,
that almost looks like a typo. Yeah, he made.
Has he shot that many?
He was 2 for 3 tonight. He had made 1 before all season. 0 for 1, 1 for 3, 0 for 1, 0 for 1, 0 for 5, 0 for 1, 0 for 1, 0 for 2, 0 for 1 before this game tonight. It was 2 for 3. That's the guy you put Klingon on, I guess.
Yeah, he's in the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm like it's weird rooting for wins and trying to talk about like how can we be in this game. I like it though, man. It reminds me of the old times.
Yeah. People are more excited too.
Yeah. SXKJX, comment is a segue into what I want to talk about to end the stream. He says, something I've noticed, there's been tons of trade talk from fans of other teams online about Robert Williams III, but little for Ayton.
Why is that?
That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Ayton, Eric, it was funny because like last trade deadline, remember we had conversations and it's like, hopefully you can get a first for him or get a second round pick. Like just like optimism about maybe you can get something back from him. I have none of that optimism right now. They should have traded him for an expiring contract, if possible, last trade deadline. That was my opinion. People thought I was crazy. People thought that was just me being an Ayton hater. Well, now look at this team without him. Look at this team without him. Look at this team with legitimate center play. With Donovan Klingon and with Robert Williams. Now, a lot of people seem to be coming around to, okay, maybe Ayton doesn't really help this team. Maybe it's better to have Robert Williams and Donovan Klingon. Especially because you just tanked the whole year for Donovan Klingon. Like, Ayton doesn't really help you. And, yeah, he is making a max. He's making a freaking max. If there's no point to having him on your roster and he's making a max contract, then it would have made sense to try and get a contract that comes off the books last trade deadline. I feel kind of justified by this recent play in regards to my take last season that they should have just tried to clear his salary off the books, even though it doesn't look great not getting anything for him, but he's a negative contract. He's not worth a freaking max. He's maybe worth half a max, at most. He is severely overpaid. Effort is inconsistent. And he doesn't do the little things. He doesn't help you win games. The problem is now Portland's in a position where it's like, yeah, they probably love to trade him. But, number one, there's the value issue that I just talked about. Number two, there's the issue of, okay, how do teams that maybe would trade for him match that freaking contract with players that they wouldn't mind trading out for him? Because there may be teams out there where it's like, yeah, they could use a center. They could use DeAndre Ayton. But if the only way they bring in his salaries by trading out the salaries of players that they want to keep that are maybe good players and not worth trading for Ayton, there's no pathway to a deal. Mm-hmm. Unless you figure out some convoluted 3-team trade, but that's difficult. Okay? And then there's also other teams that maybe could make the salaries work, but like have no first-round picks that they could trade for Ayton, and you're not getting any value for him. Like, that is the situation the Blazers are in. It is going to be extremely, extremely difficult to get anything back for DeAndre Ayton. And I am starting to really worry that they are going to be stuck with him because they might not even have trades where they can trade him for an expiring contract on the table. The biggest expiring contract right now for like a guy that a team might trade for Ayton is Ben Simmons making $40 million. But they have Nick Claxton. Like, do they want Ayton with Claxton?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, why? Why would they want that? So you guys can throw out destinations in chat if you think there's a good Ayton destination, and we can tell you why it's going to be difficult to trade him to that team, because there is not a single destination in the league where it's not difficult to find a trade that works for DeAndre Ayton.
Orlando? Maybe.
That might be the number one team, but the problem... So here's the thing with any destination that might make sense is, does that front office know DeAndre Ayton and his issues? You know what I mean? Like, does that front office view him as somebody that doesn't do the little things, doesn't do the things that they'd want a center to be good at, and therefore would not trade for him? You know what I mean? That's the problem with any destination that might work, is then you get into the conversation of, do they like him as a player? Because I think a lot of front offices probably don't. But situationally, if you take that out of the equation, Orlando might be the best situation right now for that, because Wendell Carter Jr. can't stay healthy. Wendell Carter Jr. is a better player, I think, than Ayton. He's kind of regressed, so maybe it's a debatable thing, but yeah.
I also think, I mean, this is probably the case for several of our guys. They probably want Robert Williams more than Ayton, but I think the Lakers are a team that's dumb enough to trade for him.
That's the other.
I don't know if they're giving us anything, but yeah.
But like,
because they've been wanting a center since the beginning of the season. They've been looking into cheap centers.
Here's the problem, though, Eric. You're going to have to take back Gabe Vincent's contract and try and find a third team for D'Angelo Russell. Gabe Vincent's making $10 million a year this year and next year. And you're going to have to maybe take back Vanderbilt's contract. That's the thing. They have to piecemeal their way there with guys that, I don't know. Do they want to trade those guys for Ayton?
Yeah.
Does it accomplish anything? Like,
then at guard, then if they trade.
Augie said Clippers. Zubac is better. Zubac is better. And I don't think they have tradable firsts. I don't remember their pick situation, but remember they gave up a lot of firsts for Paul George in the OKC trade. They didn't recoup those.
I think they do.
Have like one.
I think they could trade their 2030 or 2031.
Yeah, I don't see them trading their only first for DeAndre Ayton. It's basically,
I know.
It's basically like, what contracts are you taking back? Because they're not trading Zubac for him. If anything, they're trading contracts they don't want. So like maybe they'd be willing to trade Terrence Mann plus. It's really tough to get their salary wise for them, because it has to be Terrence Mann plus. There's somebody else making. PJ Tucker. Plus, they're still like $12 million short. And I believe they're close to the tax line, so they have to trade out like...
They're hard cap, too, from the sign and trade.
Yeah, so getting the salary there for the Clippers is like next to impossible. So that's why like they are not an option for me. Because they're not going to trade Norm, they're not going to trade Harden, they're not going to trade Kawhi for Ayton. So it's PJ Tucker, Terrence Mann, like Derek Jones Jr.? I don't think they'd want to trade Derek Jones Jr. for him if they're trading Terrence Mann.
Yeah.
Chris Dunn? I don't know. He plays some good defense, and they're still short salary-wise. PJ Tucker, Terrence Mann, Chris Dunn, and Nick Batum is still less than DeAndre Ayton. That's the problem, is he makes so much freaking money, it's really hard to trade him. Johnny says Pistons, why would they want Ayton over Jalen Duren? Duren is much younger, a part of their future, and Ayton's not better than him. Duren's shooting 82% from the field right now, Eric. I didn't realize that. That's crazy. Also averaging 4 assists per 36. So I think that's the other team, though, is maybe the Hornets if they're somewhat competitive and Mark Williams gets hurt or can't get healthy.
Yeah, it's been healthy for years, yeah.
I think, yeah, that's the Magic and the Hornets are probably the top two teams. I know people will say the Pelicans, but they'd have to trade Brandon Ingram to get Ayton. Which
they trade CJ.
Or CJ to get, but who's... You're in the same problem with CJ as you are with Ayton. Yeah.
I'll be right back, Tori.
All right, yeah, go ahead. So this is just the problem that the Blazers are going to run into with DeAndre Ayton. Now, the Hornets, like... The Hornets' biggest expiring contract is Trey Mann at $4.9 million, but they're keeping him. He's been really good off the bench this year. So you're having to take back salary no matter what. That is the problem. Grant Williams is making $13 million a year for the next 3 years. I don't want Grant Williams on this team. Josh Green, maybe. He's making $13 million a year the next 3 years. Now, can you find a team that wants like Grant Williams plus, I don't know, maybe Cody Martin? They'd probably rather have Josh Green than Cody Martin. So Cody Martin making $8 million, Grant Williams making $13 million. You get that to $21 million outgoing for them. DeAndre Ayton's making $34 million. They're below the tax, so they still have to trade out like another $6 million. So like Micic plus Cody Martin plus Grant Williams, all those guys are under contract next season. So you're not saving money for guys that don't factor into your future. So you're basically just turning DeAndre Ayton into 3 guys that have the same issue that aren't part of the future that are making money. Have you heard this conversation at all, Eric?
I missed the last minute or so.
The Hornets' biggest expiring contract right now, at least according to Fanspo, is Trey Mann's $4.9 million. They're not trading him.
Yeah.
Any salary you bring back is going to be on the books next year. Grant Williams, $13 million. Like Cody Martin, $8 million. And Micic, almost $8 million. You're not saving money. You're saving a few million. That's it. You have all that money under contract, and they're not a part of the future. So you're not really solving your issue.
Yeah, you'd have to find teams for those guys.
Yeah. But
or smart, you have to count on Cronin being creative.
Yeah. But that's the thing is you're having to try and find a way to, like, send those guys off for expiring contracts, and that's exactly why they should have been willing to shop them for expiring contracts at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem with Charlotte. Orlando, contractually, you're looking at the biggest expiring contract they have. No way. Eric, Orlando does not have one expiring contract.
They can take back. I think they can take back 200% in a trade, though.
Not when it's that much salary. That only applies below $7.5 million. You remember how it was like 175% or something under $6.5 million?
Yeah.
So it's still like tiered like that, but it's under $7.5 million. It's 200%. Then once it's past $7.5 million, they can take back $7.5 million more until it's $30 million, and then it's down to 125%. So Ayton making $34 million. They can basically trade out $26.5 million. We'll get them to match. So you're looking at. Sorry, that's very loud. Wendell Carter Jr., but he has an extension that's going to kick in. and he's making like $12.5 million. You don't need Wendell Carter Jr., right?
Mm-hmm.
So Batadze's another center, 3-year contract, making $9 million. Like, none of these salary pieces the Blazers should want back. Now, maybe you'll take them back if you get a first, but what team is giving up a first for DeAndre Ayton? This is the problem that the Blazers are going to run into when trying to trade away DeAndre Ayton. This is the problem they're going to run into. It's going to be very hard to make a deal work in the Blazers' favor.
It's basically the Phoenix situation. You're basically just trading him for whatever you can get piece-wise.
Yeah.
If you trade him.
Yeah.
And they had to attach Kamara.
The only saving grace of the Phoenix part of that deal is the fact that the Blazers got Kamara. That is the only saving grace right now for the Phoenix part of that deal. Which is funny because everybody thought the Phoenix part of that deal was such a home run. Now it's like, how do we get rid of this guy so we can play our Robert Williams, who's actually a winning center, and Donovan Clingan? The Phoenix part of that deal actually looks like the worst part of that trade right now, which is kind of crazy. They got Tamani Kamara, though. That's their only saving grace.
Yeah.
That's their only saving grace, man. Somebody said Nikola Vucevic, like, isn't he have 2 years left? Yeah, he has 2 years left at $20 million. So basically, you have Ayton just a little bit cheaper. But also, Vucevic is averaging 18 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, 3 assists. Vucevic is probably better than Ayton. So the Bulls are dumb, so maybe. But I think your best, honestly, Eric, you know what the best destination is? What do you think is the best destination, Eric? Do you
like for Ayton or
like the most realistic pathway to being able to trade him without taking on like contracts you don't want?
I still think it's got to be if Ben Simmons. It probably have to involve a third team, but an Ayton for Ben Simmons type trade.
I think it is Atlanta.
Yeah.
If they want him instead of Capella.
Yeah.
Because Capella's making $22 million this year, expiring, so the Blazers could bring him in, buy him out. His money comes off the books this upcoming offseason. So if you get back expiring contracts for Ayton, basically you save all of Ayton's money that you'd be paying him next year, starting this offseason. So you save like $35 million in the offseason. Opens up different moves. So Capella plus Larry Nance Jr. is 33.4, and Ayton's making $34 million. And they are $3.1 million under the tax, so they stay under the tax.
Yeah.
And then you just buy both guys out. Maybe you keep Larry as a vet.
Yeah. I'd be fine with that.
That is the most realistic Ayton trade. And you're probably getting nothing back.
So Johnny asked in chat, why do the Blazers need Ben Simmons? Have you not been listening for the past 20 minutes?
There's always that comment when we talk about expiring contracts.
You have to realize if the Blazers are trading Ayton, they are looking to get out of his salary. They could care less who the player is coming back as long as he's expiring. So it's just a way of getting, basically, Ayton has 2 years left on his deal. It's a way of getting him off the team and cutting a whole year off his salary, so we have a lot more flexibility this summer.
Yep. You're going to have to take back contracts for him. And they're going to be contracts that don't factor into the future. So basically, you're not focusing on the player, you're focusing on the contract. Now, if you get a pick thrown in, obviously you're focusing on that. If you're getting a good young prospect that could factor into your future for Ayton, you're focusing on that, right? And maybe that changes the calculation. But assuming you can't get either, you're basically just looking at what contracts are we getting back for him. Are they expiring or not? If you get Ben Simmons, you can buy him out. You save that money in the offseason off of Ayton's contract because Simmons is expiring. If you get back a 3-year, $30 million year contract, you're going to have to deal with that contract on your team for a player that isn't a part of your future. It's pointless to have that money on the roster. So it's all about clearing that money essentially, and that's why Capella is on an expiring contract. Larry Nance Jr. is on an expiring contract. If the Hawks want Ayton over Capella, I would go to them right now. I would literally go to them right now and say, we'll offer this trade. We'll probably buy out Larry Nance Jr. right now. And then maybe you try and flip Capella. I would do that right now. Scoot and Ayton for Hero and Robinson? Why would we... Why would they want... Ayton is like the opposite of a Heat culture guy, I feel like. Jimmy Butler would make Ayton cry. Ayton to New Orleans to send Ingram and Scoot to the Bucks and send Dame to LA. What? Where does that send D'Lo, Hachimura, and Vando to Portland? Why would the Bucks? What? Why are you even sending Dame to LA? I hate that. I hate everything about that trade. Shout out to Little $20 donation. Says coming into the live a little late. Love seeing the team ball and everybody getting involved. Glad to see Sharpe popping and being who we hoping to be. Sorry for calling you Corey, Tori. Thanks for the apology. And thank you for spelling both names with an EY. Says, been watching since 2019. Go Blazers. I don't even remember when you called me Corey. Was it in the stream? I didn't see it, so we're all good. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate the love.
I think he donated a previous stream. And
yeah. Well,
excellent.
All good, man. Thank you for supporting since 2019. You're an OG. And thank you for the $20 donation.
And Sharpe was awesome and stuff.
Yeah, like my ideal roster moves is like, and this is trying to be realistic, is that Hawks trade for Ayton. Okay. You trade Grant for a first somewhere, and maybe it's to the Lakers, and you flip whatever salary you get back and hopefully clear off that salary. If you can find another team that's willing to give you an expiring and a first, you do it for Grant. Okay. So if you can get trade Grant and Ayton for expirings and one first-round pick, I think you do it. And then Anthony, I don't know what the hell is going to happen there or what should happen there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get back expiring and maybe a first, like, and it makes sense to trade him because of the young guards you have, and maybe it's a better situation for him to go somewhere else, and you do that trade because it's a better situation for him, and you can get back a first. Like, if you can get back 2 firsts and expiring, fans won't like that, but you add 2 firsts, you clear.
I think a lot would.
A lot would hate giving up. There's Ayton fans, there's Grant fans, there's Simons fans. Like, there's a lot of people that will find a way to be upset with maybe the return. Because a lot of people want to trade these guys, but think they can get back more than they can also. So, like, if you can get back 2 first-round picks and expirings for those 3 guys, you clear up, like, $90 million of cap space. And then you can take on salary for picks, or you can maybe go after a veteran at mid-level exception signing if you're not going the cap space route, or just a veteran signing in general that actually fits into your team. Like, you have a role for him, etc. He fits into the MO. And then you hope you get Cooper Flag. Like, that is the best iteration of the roster. If you can't trade Ant or Grant, okay, this is slightly trolling, okay? If you can't trade Ant or Grant, hopefully you still get lucky. You sit them out, you take. Hopefully you still get lucky, you get Cooper Flag. And then, you know, if Giannis asks out Milwaukee, you go to Milwaukee and say, hey, we'll trade you Ant and Grant for Dame. And you have Dame, Sharpe, Kamara, Flag, Klingon, or Robert Williams as your starting lineup next year. Desmond says Torrey's still trying to tank is crazy. Bro, we're not even in a play-in spot after winning 3 straight games for the first time in like a millennia, my guy. Okay? They're 6-8. They are currently in 13th place in the West. We're ready to win it all, Eric. We're ready to win it all. We're in 13th place. Right? Do you agree? You're muted. I don't know.
Yeah, dog's drinking water. Yeah.
We're about to go on a 12-game streak. Okay. When we lose, are you going to say you were wrong? Or are you just going to say, no, we're still a top 3 team? Like, what are we talking about? Sorry, I dropped my mic.
Mr. Massager Desmond over there.
Okay, also, please don't call in while giving your wife a massage. That was a little weird, a little strange, okay? I didn't have the heart to tell you in the moment when you called in, okay? But it was the background was a little bit off-putting. So, just wanted to recommend maybe not doing that next time.
All right, I know Desmond's feeling himself right now, but like, why do you have to turn like a 3-game winning streak into they're going to win 12 in a row? Because then that just makes it look crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, say they're playing much better, I have more faith in them that they could rise up in the standings. Not, this proves they're going to be a top 4 team. They're going to win 12 games in a row. Like, that's really hard to win 12 games in a row, especially when we have 2 against Houston coming up and OKC in our next 3 games. So, like,
yeah, I just hope we can win 4 games in a row. It's going to be almost impossible to win 4 games in a row. Like, OKC is 11-3, and we're playing them on the road. You got 3 straight road wins where you barely squeaked this one out against Atlanta at home. Okay, Atlanta's a playing team at best, and you're at home. Like, it's not like this team has arrived and ready to prove they're a home court advantage team. They needed Shaden Sharpe hitting a step back like 30-footer to win this game.
Because OKC doesn't have Chet, and we can outlast Houston. Okay. All right.
Well, I mean, listen, I would love a 12-game winning streak. I would love to talk about this team as a contender. I just think you have to be more realistic.
I feel like Houston is who Desmond thinks we are.
Yeah. I don't understand, Eric. Like, I understand, like, fan bias, but it's just like, if you were not a fan of the Blazers, you would not be saying they're a top 4 team. You're only saying that because you're a Blazer fan. That is just clearly bias. That's clearly bias. Like, you're not sitting here saying, I don't know, let's see. Atlanta's, well, the East sucks, but, like, let's say Brooklyn is 5-9. They're actually further up in their conference than we are. They're in 10th place.
I think
there's
we'd be in the
somebody
playoffs
saying
if we're in
they're a top 4 team. One of their fans is saying they're a top 4 team. You're not saying Brooklyn's a top 4 team because you're not a fan of them. Nobody outside of Blazer fans would say the Blazers are a top 4 team.
Memphis is a fraud. They beat us by 45 without their 3 best players or something. What are you talking about?
I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Enjoy the win. When you start making it out to be, we're going to win 12 straight games, we're a top 4 team, like, okay, well, you're going to be really disappointed when we're not. You're going to be really disappointed when we're not. We're not there yet. Here's the thing, is like, people take that as a negative thing, like, you're downplaying this team right now. They are 6-8. They are in 13th place. That's facts, number 1. But number 2, it's like, the bar is not that high. And you're just setting yourself up for disappointment if you put the bar that high. Saying the bar is not that high is not a bad thing. We were just hoping I was honestly just hoping for one stretch of games, one stretch of 3 games where this team looked the way they did the last 3 games. Like, it's almost like this season is accomplishment because they won these 3 games in a row. And I mean that in a good way. Like, this is the best 3 games they've had last season or this season.
And we also mentioned many times before the season started that the Blazers could look way better and improve like this and still not be a play-in team just because of how tough it's going to be in the West. And so, yes, they could end up being better than some teams we didn't think would be bad, but it's still going to be tough to, for a full season, outlast some of these teams.
Blazers fan says it's hard to say how good the Blazers are. We haven't seen the current team play much together. Yes, but like there's a level of knowing who's on your roster versus who's on other rosters, though. Like, none of these guys are a top 50 player in the league. They're winning games because they're playing as a team and playing defense and playing a certain style. But no team without a top 50 player in the league has ever been like a top 4 seed. When has a team ever been a top 4 seed without a top 50 player in the league? The thing is the two guys that you could say are close to the top 50, or like 2 of the 3 guys that you could say are maybe in the top 100, the Blazers look better without both of them. So that's the thing where it's like, yeah, just they do not have the personnel. They just don't. That's fine. Stop trying to like take a good stretch and run with it. It's too much. It's too much. Like Eric said, it's better to try not to overreact to the downs and the ups as well. Like, I don't know, man. If this team is top 4, you can come in here at the end of the season and tell us we're wrong. But I feel like when the team starts losing, you're going to disappear for the second half of the season. And we're not going to see you in postgame shows for like months.
No, here's the problem.
That's how it goes with people that think the team is really good and then they start losing. They're like, oh, I'm done. And they just don't even, no accountability, don't even show back up.
No, here's the problem, Tori. If the Blazers are the 5th seed this year, that's like we're talking about this season as one of the most impressive seasons in Blazers history.
Yes.
And Desmond was still wrong because he was trying to say they were top 4. So all the credit he could have gotten by saying, no, this is a...
You could just say playoffs.
A playoff team or something. Instead, you have to always say 12-game winning streak or top 4 seed. Dude, you can be a little less like serious about how high they're going to be and still be completely right. But it doesn't like mark you for not being correct if they're really good, but not quite as good as a playoff contender like you seem to, or a championship contender like you seem to think they're.
It's me and Eric talking against both sides of this, where everything is either the best or the worst in sports talk, sports analysis. Everything's either really, really good or really, really bad. Dame won nothing, didn't help this team win, is the take that we fought back against, like the Dame haters and how freaking drastic they are with their hate. The Ant love and Ant hate. I feel like I've fought back on both sides of it, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's normally in the there's a wide range between 0% and 100%.
And
almost like 99% of the time it's going to be between 0 and 100%.
And Zach says going 9-3 would be a very positive stretch. Yeah, 9-3 over the next 12 games would be awesome.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to like be like, oh man, that sucks. They couldn't win 12 games in a row.
Yeah. I mean, listen. You want to put some money on it? We can put some money on them being top 4 team. I'll even give you 2-to-1 odds. I even give you 2-to-1 odds in your favor. Dro just hates Simons and Scoop, man. I used to remember Dro being positive. When did he become so negative? Is it our fault, Eric?
No, he's like that.
I always love when Dro shows up, though.
It's the Dame stuff. He's a big Dame guy, too.
Yeah. Does Thibault come back and start? He's our X factor. Thibault's not in this rotation. That's another contract where, like, I'd trade him for an expiring right now, Eric. That's another contract. They should not. It's funny because I feel like Blazer fans don't know when to cut their losses. And this doesn't apply to everyone, but I feel like this fan base doesn't know when to cut their losses ahead of time. With Thibault, the majority of fans, even a lot of people in our chat, thought I was absolutely insane for saying don't match his contract, the offer sheet in restricted free agency that Dallas gave him. People are like I was insane. Look at this team right now. Even without Simons, he should not be playing at all. He should not be playing at all, and he's making $11 million. Why? For what? Oh, to trade him down the line. Okay, they would have had a better chance trading him last deadline for anything than they will at this deadline after he is hurt and then, like, barely plays. Like, we're talking about Avdija getting 25 minutes in a game where he was good And Banton played 26. Oh, maybe you could take repairs 10 minutes. Why? Why take repairs 10 minutes? You know what I mean? There is no purpose. No purpose at all for Matisse Thybulle being on this team. Like the dude. Great guy. It would make more sense to put him on a different team. Okay? Like, maybe this Atlanta team could find a use for him. They were giving, Keaton Wallace 17 minutes today. There is no reason to be paying Matisse Thybulle $11 million this year and next year. Would have been better just to cut your losses and let him go to Dallas. Now it's like, hopefully we can trade him for an expiring. Just put you in the same exact position you would have been if you just never matched his offer sheet, where it's like, okay, we're just trying to get his money off the books. Same thing with Ayton. Those two things were maybe what I got the most heat for in the past, year and some change, outside of the Dame stuff. And right now, this team would be in a better shape with both those contracts off the books without getting anything back. Chat, do you agree? Do you disagree? Because I just think you got to know when you cut your losses. And that's maybe a problem with Joe Cronin. Doesn't know when to cut his losses. Doesn't know when to move on. I bet you Dallas would take him still instead of Maxi Kleber. Is Maxi Kleber on an expiring contract?
It's got to be pretty close.
Nope, 2 years.
Oh, 2 years still.
So instead of letting Matisse Thybulle walk, we have to have Maxi Kleber on the roster for $11 million this offseason next year? That's an L.
That's some shooting.
We got Duop Aretha. If you want a shooting big, we got Duop Aretha on a minimum contract. I'd rather have that than Maxi Kleber at $11 million. That's the whole point. If they do that type of trade, it's an L. They should have just let him walk. They also give up a couple second-round picks to get him. Didn't really understand it. But don't bad talk my goat Duop. No, I was saying I'd rather have him than Maxi Kleber. Your Ayton trade is legit. No, it's not. No, it's not. Milwaukee's not going to do that. The Lakers, no. It's more likely to just trade Ayton to the Lakers instead of why are we including Dame? The Lakers are not giving enough up for Dame. Is he a Lakers fan here to troll us? Your trade idea was the Lakers get Dame and they gave up Vanderbilt, Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell in how many picks? For a top 20 player in the league? How are the Lakers getting such a sweet deal? Ayton to the Warriors. Yeah, no, they're not. They're not bringing in somebody like that when they're playing this well. They'd rather have Kevon Looney setting screens and never touching the ball. Yeah, Golden State's in first, 10-2. OKC's 11-3. Houston's in third at 10-4. The Blazers still in 13th, but they are a game behind 10th. The Mavs are at 10th, 7-7. The Blazers are 2 games out of 6th, which is Denver at 7-5. Now, the Blazers, if they were in the East, would be 6-8, tied with the Atlanta Hawks, who they played today. What's crazy is the Pistons are 7-8. The Pistons might be a play-in team. You got Philadelphia at 2-10, Milwaukee at 4-9. It's going to be interesting to see how that conference shakes itself out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ayton to the Pistons. They don't want him over Duren. We are easily better than the Mavs. All right, bro. All right, man. You got it.
Finals team last year, yeah.
Yeah, finals team last year.
They struggled a few games this year.
They just beat OKC so by 2. So if we're better than them, we should beat OKC by more.
Well, we are. We're winning 12 in a row. So
how much are we beating OKC by, Desmond? Next game. Predict the final score. Shout out to Lil $20 donation. Another one. Thank you. Appreciate it. Says, called you the wrong name 2 streams ago. Had never seen Robert Williams play before because I don't watch the BS Celtics, but I really like him. I don't think bringing back Dame helps us because he can't play D like it. Well, the whole bringing back Dame thing was kind of a troll. Was trolling, but yeah, no, Robert Williams is good, man. He's a winning player. He does the little things. He plays with energy. He's very legit. Thank you for
Cronin is not trading for Dame in that contract.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
We might sign him back at the end of his career.
Ayton to the Pacers like the Suns. The Pacers don't want him. They got Miles Turner. They got Pascal Siakam. Like, they don't need more. They have, like, the best offense in the league. They need defensive help, and Ayton doesn't provide that. Tyler J says on Locked On Pistons, actual Detroit fans last spring said they wanted Ayton over Duran. I mean, that's just silly. Like, that's fans not... listen, a lot of fans are going to like Ayton because a lot of Blazer fans thought Ayton would be a star here. That the Blazers were going to be the place where he would finally figure it all out. Guess what, Eric? We are undefeated in terms of telling people players aren't just going to magically figure it out in Portland compared to not figuring it out in other places. Cam Reddish, Mario Hezonja, like DeAndre Ayton. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few guys. What's wrong with Halliburton this year? That's a great question. Dame can't fix them. Yeah, we don't got Dame to fix Ayton. Dame would probably hate Ayton. If the Bucks underperform still by the 2026 offseason, Dame would opt to sign with the Blazers. Would opt out to sign with the Blazers. He'd probably still be better than Ant and Scoot at that age. Dame's not going to give up a bag to come here in 2026. Like,
they're going to give up like nearly $70 million to come play here for like $2 million.
Yeah, it's not happening. Do you think the Pacers would still want to do that Jarris Walker deal? I mean, if you can get Jarris Walker for Grant, that's a home run. Like, I doubt it. I think they're just going to play the long game with him.
It's tough with Siakam, too.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And if Walker's not getting minutes at power forward currently, why would they give minutes to Jeremy? Like, how they have...
Start him at the 3 instead of... Yeah.
Well, they just moved Mathurin into the starting lineup, and he's played really well.
Yeah.
Outside of a game or two. But...
I mean, yeah, that's the problem. So I don't think there's anything on Portland that Indiana would want outside of Robert Williams. If you could trade, like, maybe they'd be willing to trade Jarris Walker for Robert Williams.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're getting Jarris Walker, believe it or not, because they need defensive help.
DJ Vegas says the Blazers give him like $30 million a year for 3 years. I could see him taking that Dame. We'd have to be $30 million under the cap to sign a free agent for $30 million. How are we going to get that far under the cap?
Yeah. Yep.
Because by then, we're talking about Sharpe extension as well.
Like, I think your best path to Dame is like Ant and another contract trading for him with like one of Milwaukee's picks. But Portland would never do that. And it would require like Giannis wanting to leave. Riley, we heard you the first time. Please do not spam chat. All right.
Hugh W asked if we considered making accounts on Blue Sky and moving away from Twitter/X. Yeah, we both have accounts on Blue Sky. I'm at Hoofsjock and Tori's
at Tori Jones.
At Tori Jones. Nice. You got your name.
Yep.
So yeah, you can join us under. The problem is until they have like group chats and certain features, it's going to be hard to fully move over there. But
also, it'd have to become more popular. Like, it has a good start. It would just take some time. So,
Yeah.
I think they need to improve the appearance of it.
Mm-hmm.
The UI. I can see CJ coming back for him. That'd be funny. I mean, if you could reroute CJ to a team that traded an expiring for him, then yeah, like.
I don't know who that team is.
Brooklyn for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, why would they want him and Cam Thomas as their backcourt?
I don't know, dude. Who would they want more, Ayton or CJ?
I'd probably say Aiden.
I would probably say CJ because he's a good vet. And they can recreate the CJ and Dame backcourt with Cam Thomas.
Man, CJ to the Lakers. I keep coming back to the Lakers because they're the one team that has contracts that move out, that they would be willing to move out. But
I don't think they'd be willing to move Rui for Ayton. I mean, I just think there's other centers out there that they would look at that are cheaper.
Yeah.
They would view just as highly, and that would be easier for them.
Oh, it's not about CJ, but yeah.
Oh, CJ. Yeah, I mean, they got a guard problem, right? So D'Lo
Would they trade D'Lo and Gabe for CJ?
Maybe. I wouldn't want Gabe back, but
No, I know. I'm just.
I think they'd have to trade out a little bit more salary, but that's something. I mean, that's the thing is like there's maybe 3-team trades you could figure out that would make sense like that, but that's probably what it'd have to be. Anyway, we've been live for 2.5 hours. That's crazy. Anything else, Eric?
No, thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate you all. Hope you have a good night. We'll hope to see you on Blazers Uprise Live tomorrow and after the next game on Wednesday.
Yep. Consider donating to Shriners Children's Hospital. There's a link in the description box below. Support a good cause. Also, next stream might have a surprise event night because our merch launch was originally scheduled for the 20th. It's scheduled for December 1st now. We're going to launch some more merch. So yeah, don't know exactly what that post-game show is going to be, but maybe we'll just surprise you. We got a giveaway night on Friday. I'm going to have to come up with new giveaway things every night. But then we'll have a call-in night on Saturday the 23rd. And then our first big board is Wednesday, 10 days from now. So I've been watching some college ball, some college clips. So we'll have that for you. That'll be fun. But it's fun to talk about this team winning games. It's kind of strange not doing Tankathon 3 nights in a row. I mean, where are the Blazers even at in terms of Tankathon? I'll check and then we'll head out of here because there's probably no point to do Tankathon when they're 6-8 because, yeah, they are tied for 10th best odds with San Antonio.
Well, 10th moved up to 1st last year.
Yeah, I'll do an off-screen simulation. And, Portland is picking 11th. Who's in Tankathon's mock draft at 11? Liam McNeely. Honestly, that would probably be the best case scenario late lottery for a player that would fit at least. Eric, before our big board 10 days from now, I hope that you have some thoughts on Yegor Demon and Trey Johnson. And
I watched a lot of college basketball this weekend. I'm getting there.
Knipple, yeah. Which is how I heard it said on TV was Knipple. So that's what I'm going to say for the time being. But also like Will Riley and Asa Newell are intriguing guys that right now are projected mid-first that could rise into the top 10 that I need to take a look at. Just interesting blend of size and skill for both those guys. This draft is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to talking about it. But the Blazers are winning games. They beat the Hawks 114-110. Shaden Sharpe, hopefully he continues his breakout, man. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come and not one of his good stretches that inevitably reverts back to him being kind of having a disappearing act like last year, right? Because he had games like this last year, man, but I don't know. Hopefully it looks different. He looks good. The shot, if that starts falling, the free throws, like, he's not playing perfect basketball. He's still playing really well and putting points up on the board and scoring the ball, which is what we need from a young player. We need a star, and he looks like he's ascending. Anyway, shout out BetUS. Shout out to our channel members. Shout out to Josh, Dylan, and Little Lil for the donations. And we are out of here. Tyler J, we will talk about prospects we can talk a little bit about it next stream. So if you have any questions, hopefully we can catch you next stream. We'll do our best to answer them because we are out of here. Until next time. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.